An entitled Karen thinks that my driveway is actually hers, as she decides to aggressively park in my driveway, thus blocking my access to my own property. And despite the fact that I've told her repeatedly that she can't do this, she said she has every right to do it simply because the previous owners of my house allowed her to do this for 10 years. But after I had her car towed for violating my very clear warning, she escalated in a way I never expected by literally calling the cops on me. Here's what happened. So I recently bought my first home in a quiet suburb. It's a super proud moment for me being single in my early 30s and having saved for years. The house has a long driveway that leads up to a detached garage in the back, and I park halfway up it so I can easily walk to the front door. Now, an important detail with all of this, the driveway is 100% on my property and it is not shared. Now, my neighbor, who is the entitled Karen of this story, is in her mid-40s and has lived in her house for over a decade. She was pleasant enough when I first moved in, bringing over cookies and saying things like, "Oh, welcome to the neighborhood." That is, until I actually started using my driveway. About a week after I moved in, I came home to find her car parked in my driveway. Not partially, mind you, but just completely blocking my garage. I thought maybe it was a mistake, like someone visiting her got confused. So I knocked on her door and she answered by saying, "Oh, that's just me. I've always parked there. The old owners let me." Well, I told her as politely as I could that it's my property and I'd prefer to keep it clear for my car. She then replied by saying, "Well, I've been here for 10 years. It's just easier for me and the street gets icy. Plus my driveway is too narrow. You have the room." I repeated myself nicely but firmly and said I needed it to be clear moving forward. She just rolled her eyes and then slammed the door in my face. And I really thought that was the end of it, but of course it wasn't. The next day, her car was back. I left a note this time just in case she didn't hear me the first time, and then I started parking behind her so she couldn't leave until she came to talk to me. Well, sure enough, she came over furious. She started yelling about how I was being disrespectful and selfish, saying that good neighbors share, but I told her that if she parked there again, I would have her towed. She said, and I quote, "Well, that's not very neighborly. You'll regret making enemies here." So I did exactly what I said. The next time she parked there, I called a tow truck. And you know what? She lost it and called the cops on me. But when they showed up, they saw my property line and basically told her to stop bothering me. Because in this case, she didn't have a leg to stand on. Yeah, that is some serious entitlement she's got there. This Karen literally was like, "Oh, well, the other owners allowed me to do this, so guess what? I'm gonna do it to you." But like, seriously, why should you be held responsible for what other owners did for this dumb Karen? You're not responsible for any of that, and the fact that she's trying to be like, "Oh, you absolutely have to listen to me," as well as her calling the cops on you, like that is so out of line. Like, this literally is not her property, and she has her own driveway. Like, what are you doing? So seriously, good for you for putting your foot down and not letting this Karen boss you around, because her behavior absolutely deserved to be punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job demands that I report all the incidents no matter what might be happening, so I decided to maliciously comply, resulting in my boss becoming incredibly frustrated at the constant reports, leading to an eventual change in policy that honestly should have happened way sooner. Here's how it went down. Okay, to start things out, I'm a site supervisor who oversees a team of 10, and we're responsible for the after-hours cleaning in a high school. Generally speaking, my team reports any damage or graffiti they find, and although it's not technically part of my role, I'll assist hirers who have rented the site facilities for sports and stuff like that. And this really is nothing major. I swipe them in if they've got issues with their access cards, or dish out directions. I'm also responsible to ensure site security at the end of each shift, which was until recently basically alarming the buildings. Most schools in my state in southern Australia are gated and therefore fully secured once the main 6-foot gate is secure, but this site is not gated and is accessed by the general public. There are also always people cutting through the grounds or walking their dogs on the ovals, and this is all good. I do my job, I alarm the site, and then I go home. Well, a few weeks back, it was discovered that a student had somehow gotten a hold of a swipe card, which gave them access to the site after hours. Now, they had allegedly had this card for almost a year and managed to get away with it, though how this happened isn't very clear, since I alarmed the bulk of the site, save areas that are hired out beyond my finished time. The end result of this discovery has basically been a huge overhaul of security protocols and a crackdown on alarming. I was given direction that at the end of each shift, I was to alarm the site as usual. However, if any buildings didn't alarm that I knew should have, I had to then complete 2 additional steps: contact police security and inform the faculty leader immediately. I finished at 8:00 p.m. and my faculty leader's workday ends at about 4 p.m. and she's not really keen on being disturbed after hours. However, the instructions were clear. Any incident had to be reported to her. Now, it's important to know that the site is old, the alarm system is sensitive, repetitive, and frankly, it's a daily occurrence that a building won't alarm for some reason, or a hirer will access an area they're not technically supposed to be in. And my boss knows this, or at least I thought she did. So on Monday night, I have to call police security and then her, with the same thing happening the following day on Tuesday. Well, fast forward and all week, there was always something that prior to all the changes, I would log into a book that my boss would then have to sign off on the next day. Well, by Friday, she was really snippy with me, sighing, tutting, that sort of thing. But then my weekend crew had a few issues, and as I was supposed to, I just reported them. Or, at least I tried to, because my boss didn't take any of my calls. Monday morning rolls around again and I get called into a meeting. And this is where I find out that my boss has decided that we will revert back to the old system, as she didn't appreciate all the calls, nor did she appreciate police security emailing her, asking why the cleaner keeps lodging nightly reports. Okay, I really love this story because sometimes this is exactly what it takes to get rid of stupid rules. Like, I'm sure this boss did not want to be bothered all hours of the night, constantly, and they definitely wanted to be off their shift at 4 o'clock. Like, they definitely do not want to be alerted later in the night that, yeah, something went wrong again. So good for you for maliciously complying. Like, seriously, this really did, change the system up, and it made things so much easier and less tedious, which in my opinion is always a good thing. My husband refuses to move from my dream job, despite the fact that I will never get anything like this ever again. And I'm now at such an impasse that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've kind of reached an impasse here, so I'm now throwing it out to the internet to look for some advice. Now, I'm an academic, which means that job opportunities are few and far between. I've been applying for everything possible for the last 3 years, and finally, I've managed to secure something. Now, this is a permanent thing, and since it's externally funded from a university, it's free from the potential job losses that United Kingdom academia is currently going through. This is my dream job, and it's that career stability that I've been working towards for a decade. For reference, I have a PhD and 2 postdoctorates. They want me in the office full time, and the job is about 150 miles from where we're currently living, so it would require moving. My new boss is flexible on me being in the office a couple days a week for a bit, while things get sorted, but the job starts in September, so things are becoming very real now. However, my husband is dead set against moving. We have a house that we bought 5 years ago, so in that sense, we are kind of settled in. I'm currently working about a 4-hour commute away, which is about 2 hours each way, and where we are, I don't really have any family or friends. However, he wants to be close to his family and has said that basically this job cannot be a long-term solution. I've been open to pivoting and looking at career opportunities where we're living, but there's nothing within a 30-mile radius, which given where we are is probably a 90-minute drive each way given rush hour traffic. Staying here would mean taking a 20 to 40% pay cut, as I'm now on a senior postdoctorate salary compared to the jobs I might be competitive for here. This would obviously be a huge strain on our joint finances, so this isn't really an option. Additionally, my husband's parents are planning on moving in the very near future. I mean, they're looking at places right now. They already have a summer house in mainland Europe that they're planning on spending a substantial chunk of their time at, and they're also now looking at selling their current place and moving about 4 hours across the country. I've tried to discuss this with my husband, but he just gets defensive. He says that moving so far away would put him outside of his support network, and he can't be that far from his family. He has, however, suggested that we could move in with his parents to wherever they end up. Now, I've been looking, but they're planning on moving way out in the country, so the situation is just the same. There are no job opportunities for me there, and it wouldn't be within a commutable distance of this job I do have. I think what hurts the most is that he is totally unwilling to see things from my perspective, that I can't see a way to provide without taking this job. I understand him wanting to be close to family, but even given the fact that they won't be in the country for a chunk of the time, I really feel like a spouse should come first. Especially staying close to family means our relationship taking a huge hit. Likely, if I take up a job here, we won't have the financial stability to afford to have kids. And then the fact that he's totally willing to get up and move for his parents, but won't even entertain that possibility for me just really hurts. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here. It's been a truly miserable situation with everyone being happy for me getting this job, apart from the one person who's supposed to be my biggest cheerleader. What should I do? Okay, your husband is being so selfish right now. Seriously, this is so stupid. Why on earth would he not be supportive and be like, oh my gosh, let's do it? Like, if he really cared about you, he would be jumping all over this opportunity. I know I would. Like, if I had a partner who worked this hard to get their doctorate and then get this chance to have this job, I'd be like, oh my gosh, let's do this. This is fantastic. But instead, this guy's trying to be like, oh, I want to be closer to my parents. And mind you, this guy's 31 years old. Like, I get it. You want to be close to family, but dude, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Why not take a chance and see where it goes, dude? At least give it some time. So truly, I really hope there's some kind of solution to this, and hopefully your husband sees where you're coming from, because this really is is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the fact that he's not seeing it is so stupid. My entitled roommate demands that I move out simply because she got pregnant, essentially implying that because I have no kids, she should be given more compassion and understanding for her situation, which basically means I've got to move out in order to make room for her spawn. But after being told this, I said no, I'm not moving, resulting in her freaking out on me in a way that honestly is so frustrating. Here's what's going on. Okay, this is happening right now, and I'm honestly still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm a 26-year-old woman sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, who we will call Leah, who is also 28 years old. We've lived here for about 5 months now. The arrangements have been quite straightforward, as we each have our own bedroom, we split rent evenly, and we generally just keep to ourselves. I work remotely, so I've set up a small desk and a monitor in my bedroom to serve as my home office. It's not a huge space, but it's enough for my needs. Well, about a month ago, Leah found out that she was pregnant. I congratulated her, and I assumed that she had a plan in place for whatever adjustments she needed to make. But man, I was completely wrong. Last week, she asked to have a serious talk and told me that she had decided she needed the entire apartment to herself. Her reasoning was that once the baby is born, it will be too stressful and cramped to share the space with another adult. She said she wanted to turn the second bedroom, which was my bedroom, into a nursery, and she thought I should start looking for a new place soon. But I reminded her that we are both on the lease and that I have no intention of moving out. I had no prior plans of doing that and get an urgent apartment in my state, which was a hassle. I pay my share of the rent and the bills, and I rely on this space to do my job. Her pregnancy, while important to her, does not give her the right to kick me out or repurpose my space for her convenience. Well, when I said that, she did not take that well. She insisted that I was being inflexible and unsupportive, saying it was unfair for a newborn to be crammed into her room when there was another perfectly good bedroom in the apartment. She argued that as someone without children, I should be more compassionate and understanding of her situation. Ever since then, Leah has become increasingly passive-aggressive. She slams doors, mutters comments under her breath, and frequently makes remarks about how some people only care about themselves. She keeps suggesting that I should do the right thing and make space for the baby, as though her personal life choices somehow outweigh the legal agreement we both signed onto. I've already contacted our landlord to make sure my rights are protected in case she tries something sneaky, because I am not going anywhere. Leah is the one who chose to have a baby mid-lease with no real plan in place, and that's not my responsibility to fix. And I'm not giving up my home because she failed to think things through. If she wants more space, she can find another apartment, because at this point, I will gladly help her pack. Dude, good for you for putting down your foot and saying, no, I'm not gonna move. Because her request is completely absurd. Just because she had a kid, which by the way absolutely is her choice, doesn't mean she gets to dictate how you live your life in the space that you're renting. And it's so funny because her arguments can literally be used against her. If she's so judgmental towards people she considers selfish, then why not find another apartment of her own? Instead of kicking your roommate out, go find another place where yes, you can have a space for the baby. Because this is just straight up lazy. Like, this is so stupid. Why should the original poster have to uproot their life all because they don't have any kids? That doesn't give you a license to be rude to the original poster. Like, that is so dumb. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. I would refuse to move and make sure that my rights are secured, because you can bet that your roommate might try something in the future, so it's better to be safe than sorry in this kind of scenario. Am I the jerk for turning down a weird solicitor in a way that my brother didn't like after he chose to not address it when he had the chance? Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I was sitting at our kitchen table across from an open window that's near our front door. To get to our front door, you must pass this window. Now, my 21-year-old brother was shirtless on his computer in the living room, and a guy came up who was maybe about 25 years old and knocked on our door in a friendly way. My brother had peered through the window blinds and didn't recognize him, so we just figured we wouldn't answer the door. I offered to my brother for him to just open the door, but he declined and went back to his computer. The guy knocked again, and I thought after that he would be done. Well, he started walking off, but right as he was about to leave, he saw me through the window and started waving, sort of in a cocky way. And needless to say, this was very uncomfortable. And I honestly just don't know why, but he just didn't walk away. I shook my head at the guy to say no, and then started telling my brother that he was still in the window just waving. Even still, I sort of ignored the guy for a little, but he just kept on waving and looking rude. I asked my brother, hey, can you just open the door and say something? But he said he didn't have a shirt on, so he didn't want to. The guy outside said something incomprehensible, but he still wasn't leaving. So I finally got up, frustrated at the guy not leaving and my brother not helping, and at the sight of me getting up from the table, the guy threw his hands up all sighing and dramatic, shouting, "There we go," through the closed window. I went and I opened the door and I said, "We're not interested," in a concise and straightforward manner. Then I just closed the door and I locked it again. The guy lingered afterwards shouting, "Oh, you might be," through the door, and some other similar phrases I couldn't quite make out. He eventually left, but it made me a little paranoid and nervous that he might return. The whole situation shot my anxiety up, so yes, I might not have handled it in a perfect way, but I thought it was realistic and I didn't have any ill intentions behind it. My brother afterwards told me that he didn't like the way that I handled it. He thinks I should have been nicer to the guy. I don't think I was mean, but I just was not going to sugarcoat it or give him the time to do his whole sales spiel. So I told my brother that if he didn't like how I reacted, then he should have just answered the door instead. I said that I didn't appreciate the way that he handled the situation either, not stepping in and just opening the door instead in the first place. I don't know if he was just insecure of opening the door shirtless or some other reason, but it wasn't very brotherly of him. I gave him 2 to 3 chances where I asked him to just open the door, but he didn't do anything. It's also really funny. He talks a really big game about how he thinks gender roles are super important and men should be filling masculine roles and women should be protected, but somehow I'm the one who cooks, cleans, fixes, and builds things around the house, as well as always being aware and on guard about people in front. So am I the jerk for handling the situation in the way that I did, or is my brother at fault for not handling it instead? What should I do? Okay, I really love the fact that you stepped up and said something, because this is such an easy situation your brother could have handled. And in my opinion, he absolutely should have handled it. Not just because he's like the man in the house or anything like that, but because he literally was closer to the door. He could have stepped up and been like, hey, we're not interested in what you're selling, and then closed it, and that would have been the end of it. It would have been done right then and there, and then it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about that. But instead, he chooses to not get involved, but then actually sit there and try and judge the way you handled it. Like, dude, you didn't do anything, so I had to say something. This guy was waving at me through the window. Like, seriously, what am I supposed to do? Sit there and just do nothing like you? He's just gonna sit there longer and still try to sell us his crap. Which also, as a side note, I really hate people who go door to door. Like, I know that might be someone's job out there, but honestly, it is super annoying and I just don't like it. Like, to each their own. Live your life however you want to do it, make money however you want. But personally, I really just find those guys infuriating and I just don't like having to deal with them. So I completely understand where everybody in this story is coming from, because those people are super frustrating. But in my opinion, your brother was way closer to the door, so he easily could have handled it if he really wanted to. And that, in my opinion, absolutely makes him the jerk. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story, because we would love to hear what you have to say. A group of entitled teenagers keep parking their car on my land and having a party. And after I've explained to them several times that they need to get lost, these kids have just consistently disrespected me and ignored me. So I decided to get some revenge by literally preventing their cars from leaving my property without the use of a tow truck. And now I'm wondering if I went too far or if I'm justified in my actions. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm a 54-year-old farmer, and this story has been eating at me for a few days now. And I don't know if I went too far, but here it goes. I own a decent-sized piece of farmland in a rural area, and for the past few weeks, a group of teenagers from town has decided that my land is their personal parking lot. It started with 1 or 2 cars on weekends, but then more showed up. At first, I figured they were just parking for a bit, and I didn't think too much of it. But then they started coming more often, and they were louder, rowdier, and more disrespectful every single time. They would park along the edge of one of my fields that I clearly own and maintain. They would blast music, scream, laugh late into the night, and even throw rocks at my goats and chickens like it was a carnival game. One of them actually climbed on top of my old tractor for selfies. I tried being polite at first, and I walked out and asked them to leave. But that only got some sarcastic "yes sir" and some exaggerated salutes, followed by laughter as they peeled out, leaving tire tracks in the dirt. I put up a sign that said "private property, no parking" in bold red letters, but they knocked it over and spray painted a smiley face on it. The final straw came last week when they were out there again, this time in 4 separate cars, blaring some bass-heavy garbage at 11 o'clock p.m. I had an early morning of work ahead of me and I couldn't sleep. I yelled from my porch to get off my land, and one of them shouted back by saying, "It's a free country, boomer." Well, if it's a free country, then I guess I'm free to plow my own field. The next morning was plow day. It had rained a bit the night before, so the ground was soft, perfect for my tractor and awful for car tires. I went out with my plow and I did my usual work, but I made sure to do a very thorough job plowing around their parked cars. I didn't touch their vehicles, but I plowed the soil nice and deep around them in every direction. With the rain and the churned up dirt, it turned into thick, sticky mud. When they came back later that afternoon, they were furious. One of the trucks got stuck trying to drive out, and another car's wheels were spinning until they gave up and just called a tow. And you know what? I just sat on my porch, sipping coffee and watching like a Netflix special. Later, one of their parents came by to chew me out for apparently trapping their kids. But I calmly pointed out that they were on private property without my permission. They had ignored my signs and disrespected me multiple times. Well, these people called me petty, but I just said, if I can't protect my own land, then what can I protect? And now some people in town are calling me farmer jerk and saying I escalated things unnecessarily. I didn't touch their cars, I just plowed my field. You know, the very field that they shouldn't have been on in the first place. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off. Yeah, this is absolutely not your fault, because the only jerks in this situation are the teenagers and the parents trying to defend them. Like seriously, let's think about this for a second. They're trespassing on private property, they're ignoring the property owner, they're disrespecting him, they're ignoring the privacy signs. Like this guy did everything he possibly could besides calling the police to get these guys off his property. And in my opinion, he did it way nicer than I would have. Like I would have been calling the police almost immediately. But that's just me. Like that's how I would have handled it. But I also appreciate how the original poster did it. Like this is completely fine too. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. And the fact that you plowed around their car pretty much forced them to spend a lot of money to get their cars out of that situation. So hopefully this is a lesson they won't soon forget, because they literally could have avoided all of this if they simply listened to the original poster. My toxic company literally almost fires me for taking PTO for being sick. So I decide to get revenge on them by putting them in their place in a way they will never forget, resulting in one of the biggest karma backhands I've ever given to the face of a company in my life. Here's how I did it. So I used to work as a researcher in an inbound call center. I love the work and the company was fantastic when I started, but after 4 years, they've got bought out by a big international corporation, which is a pretty standard hack and slash corporation. They buy up a profitable company, strip it of all assets, they cut costs, they slash the quality, they make good money until our well-deserved fantastic reputation is completely destroyed, and then they sell it off and they move on. Within weeks, the company went from being fantastic to work for to just yet another crappy, tense work environment where the bosses take advantage of the employees. One quick example of how badly they nerfed the bonus structure is that one particular bonus went from being able to earn up to $1,000 extra in 3 days to a single $50 Boston Pizza gift card. Previously, all employees got paid varying bonuses under this scheme, but in the new system, only one person gets the gift card, and they had the nerve to get mad at us when the new slap in the face bonus failed to motivate anybody. Now, I was good at my job, and not to brag, but I was the most productive employee on the floor. We were given 15 PTO days to use every year, which according to our employment contracts and company handbook, were to be used for sick days, mental health days, and other personal reasons. No explanation was ever asked for, meaning that you could use them as and when you will. I always made sure to use all of my PTO by the end of the year, as it didn't bank. Previous management encouraged us to do so, and also there was no bonus for not using it. I followed the company rules, always gave plenty of notice, and only once left the team dangling with no notice. And the only reason that happened was because I got seriously ill at the time. Well, the new management takes over, and right away, they start trying to intimidate us into not taking PTO. I hear a lot of this from my fellow employees, how when they would call in, the supervisors have started grilling them. They'll be challenging them and saying, well, you don't sound sick, and all this other garbage. A lot of intimidation and bullying tactics. So by the time I needed to use a PTO day, I'm completely ready. I call in one day and I tell them I won't be in tomorrow. They want to know why, so I tell them that I'm not feeling well. Their voice grows immediately cold and they get a rude tone. Well, you don't sound sick to me. Being a smart aleck, I said to them, well, not even doctors try to diagnose illnesses over the phone, but they just kept pushing me. Can you come in this afternoon? You don't sound sick. You've been using a lot of sick days, way more than other employees. I got tired of being treated like a criminal for obeying the rules, so I got a recording app for my phone. I live in a one-party consent area, so it's perfectly legal to record phone calls. And the next time I felt sick, I called into work. Now, they always begin every call with a disclaimer. They would say something like, thank you for calling. For your information, this call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes. I would say hello, give them my name, and I would say, by the way, just so you know on my end, this call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes. Because I am recording the call, and I think it's only fair to let them know. The supervisor gives out a perfunctory laugh and then says, so why are you calling in sick? You don't sound sick to me. I'll put you down for sick in the morning, but you'll be in for the afternoon. I informed them that no, I'm calling in for at least one day, and I will update if I don't feel better. She says to me, no, I'll put you down for a half day, and you can call in again if you don't feel better. Once again, I said no. I restate my position, and I tell them that is that. She then gets really pissy and starts insinuating that this might cause me to lose my job. Why do you take so much more PTO than other employees? I then say that I take what my employment contract says that I'm entitled to, no more and no less. Well, you should have a better team spirit. We'll have to review this with human resources. And she said this in a threatening tone, just this classic bullying playbook. I'm off the next day and I come in for my following shift, and I'm told to go see human resources. I then sit down at the desk of someone who we will call Art, who is very much the corporate human resources lapdog. He goes on about how they're going to have to review my employment contract and consider whether or not going forward I'm a good fit for the company. Now, in case I seem too calm in this scenario, bear in mind that while I do prefer to remain at this company for the time being, I do not care if they want to fire me. I'm very good at my job. I have several job offers from competing companies, so the threat of being fired just does not even faze me in the slightest. While Art is berating me, I take out my phone and I start playing the recording I made when calling in sick. Art then stops and starts to get annoyed. Then, realizing he's listening to a recording of an employee verbally berating and intimidating a worker for exercising their contractual legal rights. He then excuses himself and is gone for about 10 minutes before returning visibly angry but restrained. He tried to dress me down, scare me, intimidate me into thinking I had violated the law with an illegal recording. I told him that working as I did as a professional researcher, I had to no surprise done my research, and a single party consent is all that was required. He then shifted gears, saying the recording didn't count because the supervisor thought I was joking. But I said to him, well, I wasn't. He then said to me, but she thought you were. And I responded by saying, and she was wrong. So it doesn't really matter what she thought. I told her the truth, she made a mistake, and recording my phone conversation is 100% legal and admissible. Art then leaves and returns a few minutes later, even more red-faced than before. He said to me, you can go back to your desk. I did as instructed, and that was all I ever heard again about using my PTO. Whenever I called in from then on, they were always very precise and professional. Their tone was as cold as a politician's promise, but that was a lot better than the bullying from before. Oh, this pisses me off so bad. I can't stand companies that act like this, dude. Seriously, you're just trying to take time off for like, I don't know, being sick. Do they really want you to come to work and give everybody the plague? I'll do that. I got no problem with that. Like, if we want to make sure everybody in my department gets the stomach bug, dude, let's get to work. Let's party, baby. I will absolutely spread that virus like the plague. Let's do it. All these people had to do was just give you the day off and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better soon. But instead, they want to be like antagonistic about it. Like, this doesn't make any sense, dude. Why would they want sick people at work? If I was a manager, I'd be like, dude, stay away from me. Don't come back until you're better. PTO or not, like, I'm not dealing with that. No, thank you. So I really love the way you handle this, and I love the way that you put them in their place, because their tune changed very quickly, and that honestly should have been the way they've been talking to you from the beginning. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My dad demands that I help pay for his new car despite the fact that I can never borrow it from him, expecting me to pay for something that I literally don't have the privilege of using. And now, after I've said no, he's basically guilt-tripping me by saying, well, family helps family, making me feel like the bad guy for saying that I can't help him out. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of backstory, I'm a 20-year-old female and I've always had a strained relationship with my dad. He's always had high expectations of me and has never really been there when I've needed help. A few months ago, he bought himself a new car. It's a nice car, definitely not something I would expect from him considering his finances, but he's always had an expensive taste. Recently, he started talking about how he could use a little extra money to help with the car payments. At first, I thought he was just venting, but then he came straight out and asked me to help him pay for it. I was really taken aback, especially considering that I can't even borrow his car when I need it. I've asked him multiple times if I could use it for errands or a short trip, but he always said no, telling me it's too valuable and that he doesn't trust me with it. So when he asked me for money for the car, I was really thrown off. So I told him that I wasn't in a position to help with that, especially since I don't even get the benefit of using the car. Well, his response was to act all hurt. He said to me, family helps family, and that I should be more supportive. It made me feel like I was the one being unreasonable for not wanting to pay for his new car when I can't even use it. Now he's been distant with me, and it's been really bothering me. So I'm just wondering, am I overreacting for feeling upset and refusing to pay for something I can't even benefit from? It just feels like he wants me to pay for his luxury while I'm left with nothing in return. What should I do? Oh man, your dad has like absolutely so much audacity to be like, yeah, help me pay for my car, but by the way, you can never use it. And if you don't do it, then guess what? I'm gonna guilt trip you. Like, your dad sucks. This is so stupid. It's just not even funny. Like, how can he honestly expect you to help pay for a car that he himself won't allow you to use? That's really dumb, and in my opinion, I think you're completely justified being upset about this. My manager tried to make me feel bad about a supposed mistake at a table I was serving, but what she didn't know was that my family was at that table, forcing me to realize that my manager truly is a toxic piece of garbage. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I work at a popular steak chain restaurant. My mother-in-law came to eat with my father-in-law and ordered a modest dinner. My manager ran their food knowing who they were, and I thanked her a few minutes later for running their food. I don't like this manager by any means. She is a regular see you next Tuesday if you know what I mean, and was sent away from our location for mistreating the staff. And how she's back is another dumpster fire story for another day. But I'm gonna work with whoever because that's just how I am. And I've been trying to allow this manager to show me that she's changed. Anyway, so I thanked her for what she did. And with the nastiest attitude she could possibly muster, she throws in, yeah, the lady at the table said that she asked for a Coke and she's been waiting for a while. At this point, I knew knew she was just trying to hurt me. So I looked at her with the most deadpan face and I tell her, "That's my mom." She then looks at me and says, "Oh, okay." My mom said that she did not need a Coke, and then why would I even need a Coke? I have 3/4 of a Coke left on my table. Instead, what they were waiting on was a Makers and Coke, which my father-in-law asked me not to ring in until he had food. Which, by the way, this idiot manager dropping the food off gave me a second to do. Which, by the way, is why I thanked her in the first place. I'm honestly sick of this manager, and I really hope somehow she gets kicked out again. Wow, what a weirdo, seriously. She came up and tried to be like, "Oh yeah, they got the wrong order," or something like that, just to try and like get under your skin. And it's like, dude, that's my mom. She didn't ask for that. You're crazy. Because I'm right there with you. I can't stand managers or coworkers who act like this at work and then still expect you to have some semblance of like politeness when they refuse to give any to you. It's super obnoxious, and yeah, I can't blame you for not wanting her around. Am I the jerk for cutting down trees my neighbor planted in my yard without my express permission? Because removing them was an entire process in and of itself, and I'm honestly hoping I never have to deal with these people ever again. Here's how it went down. So over a year ago, our new neighbors, we'll call them Mr. and Mrs. Short, planted trees in what I thought might be my yard. I wasn't totally sure where the property line was, but we shook hands and agreed that if the trees ended up being on my side, they would sign them over to us. And this is no big deal because I really didn't care at the time. Also, since they were midway through planting 22 trees, they made me feel like moving them wasn't an option anyways. Over the next few months, they started mowing what was definitely my yard between my house and the trees. Then one Saturday, they even mowed in front of my house and along the sidewalk, leaving me with a half-mowed yard. It kind of felt like they were forcing me to finish it, even though I had other plans that day. And trust me, I was tired of them encroaching on my property. That Saturday morning, I knocked on their door and asked if we could get something in writing about the trees or they would need to move them. But instead of working with me, I got hit with straight hostility, unwillingness, and even threats. So later that week, I put up a temporary fence around the trees to stop them from crossing onto my property. Now at this point, I'm going to skip some of the threats, the police involvement, and other interactions from here and skip straight to the point. We ended up spending $350 on a survey, which is not easy for us financially, especially with a 6 to 7 month old baby at the time. The surveyor showed us that the property line runs between the trees and the fence. So to clarify, the 22 trees are about 2.5 feet into my yard, and the temporary fence is actually 6 to 8 inches into theirs. We sent them a certified legal document giving them 30 days to either move the trees or officially sign them over. On day 29, we got a certified letter back saying the trees are ours and that the fence didn't need to be moved. Fast forward 6 months or so to May, and my wife wants the trees gone as a Mother's Day gift because they're just an ugly reminder of the drama. We take down 2 trees and suddenly Mr. Short is at the fence demanding that I move my fence by Sunday. And by the way, at this point, it's Friday afternoon. He starts pulling on the fence, getting heated, and being completely unreasonable. I got a video of this, and it's not enough to count as a crime, but proof of his temper and outrage. Mr. Short constantly makes threats and then follows it by, "That's the law," and insists that we call the cops. At this point, the both of them are belittling not just me and my wife, but also our now 18-month-old child. While we're waiting for the cops, things I can mention them saying are, "Oh, how do you sleep at night? I hope your child doesn't follow in your footsteps," or something along those lines. The police come with a resolution for me to move my fence in 30 days, which is totally fine. I should have done it before, but the bushy trees made moving the wire fence even more of a pain. But now, thankfully, they're all gone. Now, these trees were planted under ginormous Indian bean trees, which meant that these 2 to 3 foot evergreen trees were shaded all day. Most of them were dying from little sunlight, or they were dying from some kind of mite or disease. They were not planted in a straight line either. Transferring them would likely have killed them, and also it would leave me with holes in the yard, as Mr. Short took all the dirt from the holes. I don't hate the trees, but it's just planted by dumb people who literally don't know what they're doing. They kept acting like it was my job to tell them before they planted trees on my property. But in my opinion, it's their responsibility to know their own property boundaries and not mine. Wow, talk about crappy neighbors. Holy crap. This guy plants trees on your yard, gets pissy when you're like, "Can we get something in writing?" And then tries to be like, "Oh, you know that fence I said I was okay with? You need to remove it by Sunday. I'm gonna give you 2 days to get it done. Get it done right now." It's like, dude, give it a rest. Nobody cares what you're saying. But thankfully, from the sounds of it, everything worked out. And hopefully you don't have to deal with these idiot neighbors any longer. My idiotic company makes a mistake by trying to punish me for the way I called out sick, resulting in me causing a revolution amongst my employees that caused so many problems for upper management that it was truly a beautiful thing to see. Here's how it went down. Okay, this happened a while back when I worked in a distribution center. It was one of those days where they were trying to cram 50 people's work into 25 people, which is pretty typical in these types of places. I was tired of it and had sick time, so I went to my supervisor before lunch break and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna leave after lunch." We usually told him when when we were going to do this, so that over our lunch he has time to move people around and cover the empty work slot. Well, I was on a certain list with people in upper management, and they wanted to use this to burn me, and so they called me into the office the next day. When I got into the office, they went in on me.
So you told them that you were going to leave well before you left? How did you know ahead of time that you would be sick after lunch? Sick time is for being sick only. So if you use it without being sick, you are stealing company time.
And believe it or not, that's what they wrote me up for. I responded by saying, so if I would have lied and said I feel sick, I'm going home immediately. I mean, wouldn't I be in trouble? And when I asked this, they literally replied and said yes. So that's when my malicious compliance came into play. I told everyone at work, about 150 people, that if you notify that you are leaving ahead of time, you will get written up for time theft. And you know what? No one ever did it again. From that point on, it was, oh, I don't feel good, I'm going home, for anyone who wanted to, meaning that their job position went unmanned for the 30 minutes it takes to restructure and reassign job tasks, meeting every day 2 to 3 times a day. They would have to take someone from another job and put them in a backed up mess, which led to more calls off. It got so bad that the upper management started an intimidation campaign in which they would start saying things like, I'm starting to see a pattern, whenever people left early more than once in a year. I now have a new job that is a million times better, but I thought I would share this here because it truly was so great to get back at these people. Okay, I love this so much because these people literally did this to themselves. They tried to punish the original poster, which in effect literally tanked so much of what they were trying to do. So good for the original poster for getting back at them, because these people, from the sounds of it, absolutely deserve it. Am I the jerk for purposefully leaving out an annoying coworker from any of the breakfasts that I buy for my coworkers, resulting in one of the weirdest interactions I've ever had in my life? Here's what went down. Okay, so I have a coworker that I have to admit I find really annoying. We can get along, but I just don't see us ever dealing with each other outside of work. One thing that she does that I find really annoying is we often get food and beverages provided, and she will take it for later. Then she says that she either threw it away or just gave it to her child. I also have a coworker that I do like, but they do more traveling, and they're at my site certain days. We get together for breakfast and lunch, and when we do this in office, we bring extra food and drinks for other coworkers. The first time the annoying coworker was here for breakfast, I asked her if she wanted any of the food or drinks, but she clearly just doesn't like the type or brand that I purchased. Before walking away, she took a lot and a drink and said to us, I'll just give it to my child. Well, I did not like my food, in my opinion, being wasted like this. When I buy breakfast now, I tell the workers I like about it, and I do it in a conference room. This has been going on for 2 months now, and I guess someone finally told her. On Friday, she was like, did the company bring this? And I said to her, oh no, this is a working breakfast. If you want to join us, you can. She then started asking all these weird questions, acting like we were eating out of a garbage can. I said to her, listen, either you want to eat something or just let us work. If you don't want something, I bought it. And if there's leftovers, I want to bring it for later or for my family. She then twisted her face, but eventually left. Now, I think I'm right, but a few coworkers said that I was talking about her daughter. But here's the thing, I wasn't. But I didn't want to hear the song and dance. If you're not eating it, I'm giving it to someone I actually like. I'm not running a snack shack for kids. Also, I buy the food, meaning that I pay for it with my money. The company has nothing to do with any of this. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say that everybody sucks here, because seriously, the original poster is being really petty, but also it sounds like the coworker who's being annoying is also being super annoying by being like, well, what are you guys doing? And like almost interrogating you guys about like what you're eating and why. So overall, this seems kind of weird across the board, because the attitude overall, in my opinion, just seems very petty. Today, I messed up by booking a flight for my family, only to realize that I scheduled this in a way that we arrive a day early. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm currently in full panic mode after realizing I've royally screwed up our family vacation planning, and I'm the designated responsible one who handles all the booking. Long story short, I managed to book flights for our family of 4 to arrive at our destination a whole day before our hotel reservation starts. And now our main hotel is fully booked for that night, so we can't even adjust it. The amount of tabs I had open while planning this trip should have been my first warning sign. Flight prices for different days, hotel options, car rentals, vacation packages. My browser looked like a digital hoarder situation. So I decided I would take care of all the bookings at once. I got our flights for what seemed like a steal, but I should have known the universe doesn't just hand out travel deals without consequences. I just double checked everything today, and thank God I did before we left, and I realized our flight landed at 2:00 p.m. on the 15th, but our hotel reservation and airport parking both start on the 16th. So now we're looking at nowhere to stay that first night, no parking our car at home, a family of 4 with luggage, potentially homeless in a tourist city, and me facing the judgment of my spouse who specifically asked me, "Are you sure the date's lined up?" Now I'm frantically searching for a one-night hotel that won't cost a fortune and trying to figure out if we can add an extra day to our airport parking without taking out a second mortgage. The worst part about it is I'm the one who always lectures everybody about checking and double-checking travel plans. And now it looks like the shoe's on the other foot and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh no, you're that kind of person. You're the one who's like, okay everybody, let's check and double-check everything. And then here you go messing up in a way you're always lecturing about. Oh god, that's not good. I can see your dilemma, but hopefully there's some kind of way you can like spin this where it's like, okay, maybe it's not that bad. Like maybe there's a one-night hotel you really can go to, as well as some silly spontaneous thing where it's like, okay, we're gonna do this one really niche thing that I definitely didn't plan on doing, and then that way you can kind of sell that, oh yeah, I planned this is totally normal. And then after that you go to the new hotel and everything's fine. Because let's be honest, your kids are probably not gonna notice any of this, but your partner absolutely is. So I think at least having some kind of game plan might save face just a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think you are gonna kind of like expose yourself to the family and be like, okay, yeah, you saw me mess up, sorry about that. Which by the way, that's totally normal, it happens to everybody. The number of times I've messed up my plans and had to like improvise on the spot are so numerous it's hard to count. So sure, you have a track record of being like the really organized and like responsible one of the family, but it seems like everybody has their time where it's like, okay, it's my time to mess up and sorry about that everybody, but I definitely messed up big time. So regardless, hopefully it all works out and you're still able to have a good time, because this really is going to be a make or break moment of if you can keep that reputation, which from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like that's very promising. My toxic manager refuses to allow me to take time off to go to my partner's college graduation, as he literally claimed that a college graduation is not a big deal and that they need me here at work way more than I need to be at this graduation. So I decided to put my foot down and I quit right there on the spot, leaving what was quite literally a toxic work environment that I'm so glad to finally be away from. Here's how I did it. So I've been working as a server for this decent high-end yet corporate restaurant for about 1.5 years. It's been okay, but for what prestige it gives off on the outside, it doesn't pay the bills well at all. As a college student, it works though, as I go in on the weekends and make what I can. I'd say that I'm a hard worker and for the most part a decent server. I've been getting exhausted with this job because the coworkers that are there now are incredibly toxic. Management is erratic and can't handle stress when it's busy, so there's lots of outbursts, and the bills just aren't getting paid. To make a long story short, my partner of 5 years is graduating from college tomorrow, and for God's sakes, it's college, which is so incredible and a huge accomplishment. As we all know, graduation happens once in a lifetime. Whether it's high school, undergrad, or graduate, it is a very exclusive event. I requested off about a month and a half in advance for tomorrow, letting them know I will be attending graduation all day. Now, at first, they were seemingly fine with it and told me, oh, you should be totally fine. And I said, okay, that's great. I'm not going to be there either way. But as the weeks have gone on, they become more tense and agitated about it, telling me that I can't have off, or that other people requested off too, so it's not fair to them. Now, who are the people that requested time off, you might be wondering? It's literally people just trying to throw a pool party. They even tried to say that this graduation is not that big of a deal. Well, today comes along and my manager approaches me and immediately asks me if I'm coming in tomorrow. And at this point, I fully put my foot down. I said to them, no, I will not. I have a commitment to going to this graduation, which is a once in a lifetime thing. I told them how I will be spending this with his family and that my family is coming up tomorrow to eat dinner with us. His oldest friends are coming and I am fully expected to be there. My manager immediately says, then that's it. I asked about working Mother's Day still because there's no way they wouldn't want me to be there, especially when we're at like 800 covers for Sunday and we only have like 17 servers on without me. Well, what does my manager say to me? We would need the extra body, but I'm not gonna give that to you. It's unfair to those who requested off for Saturday. And it's like, oh yeah, you mean the pool party people? Well, I proudly said something at least. I said to him, well, that's fine. It's about time that I left this place anyways. And then we just left it at that. I told him if he still wants to be a reference for me, because I've applied for 3 different internships that I'm waiting to hear back on, then he can go ahead and do that. But otherwise, I guess that's that. And also, I went ahead and looked, and we have 308 covers for tomorrow. 308. 17 servers. Like, dude, that is not crazy busy at all. And it's even more ridiculous they're throwing a fuss over this, because there are multiple people who miraculously still have a job there, even though they've been accused of really awful stuff. So anyways, I just went ahead and I quit. And I really hope they enjoy this weekend, because Mother's Day is an absolute mess at this restaurant. Wow, I love this so much. Dude, this is great. This is one of those situations where you're like, oh man, I wish I could have been there to watch that happen. Especially the part where you're like, oh, I can't take off? Well, guess what? I'm still taking off, but I'm just not going to be here anymore. Like, you laid down the hammer and that is exactly what it takes sometimes. You gotta stand up for yourself and be like, no, I'm not gonna lay down and take this. You are gonna give me time off or I'm gonna quit. And I can't stand the manager because they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna have to give those times to other people because it's not fair for you to get it even though you're taking time off. It's like these types of managers who are just really crappy, they literally have no understanding of what is like a high priority and what isn't. And it's like, dude, a graduation is a huge deal. This is not some stupid pool party that people are hosting. Like, what's going on there? I bet he's only okay with those people having the pool party because they're friends and he's probably gonna be there. I wouldn't be surprised if he called off that day and was like, oh yeah, let's go to the pool party, let's do it. So good for you for quitting and not looking back because those people absolutely sucked. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My parents are expecting me to hire them at my company no matter what, as they claim that having skills should not be a prerequisite to working for my personal business. And at this point, I'm not sure how to tell them no, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I started my own tech consulting company 3 years ago after quitting a job that nearly burned me out. I worked like crazy, sleepless nights, eating noodles for weeks, maxing out my credit cards just to keep it afloat. And you know what? Eventually it paid off. I landed some solid clients, hired a small but amazing team, and now we're doing really well. I'm not rich, but I'm finally stable and proud of what I've built. Now here's the twist in all of this. My parents think that they deserve a role in the company. A few weeks ago during a family dinner, my dad casually mentioned that he was ready to start managing operations for me. I thought he was joking. I mean, he has zero experience in tech or management. He worked construction his whole life, and honestly, there's no shame in that, but this is a completely different world. My mom chimed in saying that she could handle finances, even though she's never worked in accounting or anything remotely close. They spoke as if it was already decided, like I was just going to hand them titles and salaries because they're my parents. I tried to laugh it off at first, but they were dead serious. I told them I appreciate everything they've done for me and that I wouldn't be here without their support, but hiring people means hiring for skills. It's not personal, it's business. Well, that just didn't go over well. Now they're acting like I'm ungrateful. My dad told me, we raised you. Now it's time that you take care of us. My mom also said that I've changed since I've got successful. They've been cold ever since, and my younger sister even texted me saying that I should just give them a job. It's not that deep. But it is that deep. I've worked too hard to turn my company into a family charity project. I have a team that depends on me to make smart decisions. I don't think nepotism is the way to go, especially when the people in question don't even want to learn the business. So yeah, I'm torn. I love my parents, but I don't think I owe them a job. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share about this situation. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to say thanks to the massive response to my original post. I read a lot of your comments and honestly, they gave me a lot to think about. I ended up talking to a few of my long-standing employees, people who have been with me since we were running meetings in my cramped apartment and eating vending machine snacks for lunch. I didn't go into too much detail. I just asked how they'd feel if I brought in someone into leadership who didn't have much relevant experience. Well, every single one of them said the same thing. It would hurt morale. A few even said it might make them reconsider sticking around if that became the direction of the company. And when they said that, it hit me really hard. I built this place on trust and merit. If I start making decisions based on family guilt, what kind of message does that send? I still haven't given my parents a final answer, and I probably will have another long and likely awkward conversation very soon. But after everything I've heard from you guys and my own team, I'm leaning towards not hiring them. I want to help my parents in other ways, just not at the expense of my company's culture and the people who help build it. Yeah, I think the original poster is making a good decision here. Just because they're family doesn't mean they're automatically hired into your business that, by the way, you've worked really hard to build up. So for them to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna be like running operations now, no big deal, right? I don't need any skills to be hired for this. Like, dude, what are you doing? Are you trying to take my business? Like, that's not gonna happen. That's like me going into NASA and be like, guys, I don't need any skills. I'm gonna run this no problem. It's like, no, they're gonna hire the best people for the job and not just because, you know, you're family. And sure, nepotism can work in some situations, but in something like this, where it sounds like you have a very specialized group of people, there's no way I would ever want to bring in some family member who doesn't know what they're doing, especially not handling operations. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not gonna happen. So hopefully your family takes this well, because I think sacrificing your business just for the happiness of your family is not a good idea. An entitled jerk demands that I move my car from the street, claiming that he has priority simply because he pays property tax in the area. And I'm honestly still pissed off about this interaction. Here's what happened. Okay, this literally just happened an hour ago. I'm a 27-year-old female, and this person I interacted with is around 50 years old. So there is street parking around the neighborhood where I work. park. On a typical Saturday afternoon, it is hard to find parking, but when I found one, I noticed a car pulling up behind me. I inched up as close as I can to give him room, but when I got out of the car, he said to me,
"Move your car, my wife parks there. We've been parking here for 18 years.
I told him no, it's street parking and that I wouldn't be able to find any at that point. His reply? Well, he said to me,
"I pay property tax, move your car."
I told him, you pay property tax on your house, not the streets. So no, I'm not gonna move. I then started walking away because I'm definitely not gonna be dealing with that.
He then said to me, "I'm gonna call the cops."
But I said to him, go ahead, I didn't do anything wrong. But as I was passing by his car, he said to me, "Effing B," and I think you know the words I'm trying to say here. I literally turned around and I went up to him and I said, "What did you just say to me? Did you just call me an effing B?" He tried to backpedal and said, "No, I was on my phone. I wouldn't say that." But his phone was in his car and he had no earpiece. I said to him, "You did. You're not on your phone."
He then said to me, "No, I was on the phone. I have a daughter. I wouldn't say that."
At this point, I was getting so heated, so I walked away again. Then at the last possible second, I saw a car drive off, so I turned around and went back for my car, afraid he was going to key my door. And you know what he said to me?
"I have Filipino friends. I'm sorry."
I looked at him even more pissed off and said, "I'm not Filipino." He tried to double down and say,
"You look Filipino."
I said, "I'm not, so you're also just racist, huh?" He then said to me,
"I'm saying I have Filipino friends."
But I just said to him, just shut up. At that point, I got in my car and I drove off to park. Keep in mind, I do take boxing as self-defense, so I'm not gonna back down from a middle-aged man trying to intimidate me, saying he's gonna call the cops. I just get angrier and I double down. And then to top it off, he assumed my race is Filipino, so that made me even more pissed off. So I'm truly so sick of idiots like this who think they're entitled to street parking all because they pay property tax. Wow, talk about super entitled. I think I would lose my mind if someone did that to me. Like seriously, dude, I'm just trying to park my car. This guy's trying to act like,
I'm better than you because I pay property tax. Move your car or I'm gonna call the cops."
Like, I love the fact that the original poster's like, okay, bet, do it, I dare you. Like, they basically said, yeah, go ahead and call him up. Let's see what happens. Let's just see exactly what's gonna go down. So good for you for standing up for yourself because you absolutely had every right to, because that guy was completely out of his mind. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not wanting to be exploited just because my boss is my cousin? Because after I quit, my family blew up on me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I used to work at a small marketing firm owned by my cousin. He offered me a job when I was unemployed, and at the time, it felt like a blessing. I thought working with family would mean trust, respect, and support. But spoiler alert, it meant none of that. From the very start, I was treated differently. I didn't get the same flexibility the other employees did. No work from home, no mental health days. And every time I said something, he would say, "Come on, we're family. I need you to be reliable." That quickly turned into do everyone else's work because I know you won't complain. I was working weekends, answering emails at night, even helping with administrative stuff way outside my role. I asked about getting compensated and he said, "You're gaining experience, that's your payment." Last week, after 6 days of non-stop work, including an unpaid weekend event, I asked if I could take a proper lunch break instead of eating at my desk. He literally laughed at me and said, "You're not special. Everyone eats while they work. Take this, it will help you improve." And then he gave me a book that's literally about weight loss. And it's like, bro, are you implying my habits are bad? That I should get used to being exploited? I was stunned. I said, "I've been working non-stop for you, doing the jobs of 3 people, and I'm not even allowed to eat in peace?" He just shrugged his shoulders and said, "If you don't like it, no one's forcing you to stay." So I said, "Cool, I'm out." And then I walked out. No drama, just being completely done. Now my phone's blowing up. My aunt, who is my former boss's mom, says I embarrassed him. My dad says I should have stuck it out, and one of my cousins texted me, "You millennials don't know how to work anymore." And it's like, are you kidding me right now? I gave 110%. I got treated like crap, and when I finally said enough, I'm the bad guy? So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Dude, there's no way you're the jerk. Seriously, this is so messed up. Your cousin exploited you, period, end of story. There's no good excuse for the way he treated you, and honestly, I'd be pissed off as well. And the fact that your family's trying to chime in and be like, "Wow, you embarrassed him. You should have just stuck it out. How dare you? You millennials don't know how to work anymore." All of these people are idiots. Literally, none of them know what they're talking about, and you should not take any of them seriously, because this guy was exploiting you for free labor, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my best friend that it's unfair that my girlfriend isn't invited on her birthday holiday? Because right now it's becoming a big issue and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my best friend invited me on a holiday for her birthday next year. The group includes my BFF, her girlfriend, and several other close friends, 2 of whom are in a relationship and going as a couple, but my girlfriend was not invited. My BFF BFF and girlfriend have known each other for years, and my best friend has made it clear that she doesn't like her and claims that they have nothing in common. My girlfriend, on the other hand, thinks they're on good terms. As time has gone on, my best friend's made passive comments about my girlfriend, and her girlfriend has openly expressed dislike for her. Here's where it gets messy. My girlfriend's close friend was invited. Then another couple were added to the trip, so it feels like it's turning into a couples heavy trip, except my partner isn't welcome. I told my best friend this makes me uncomfortable, especially because I've stood by her through a lot. I supported her emotionally during some very confusing times. I've continued offering her lifts, helped plan around her needs, and stayed present even when her girlfriend has been rude or dismissive towards me. I've bent over backwards for this friendship because I genuinely care. I tried to express that excluding my girlfriend feels unfair, and my best friend got very upset. She said it's not a couple's holiday, it's just a trip with people she's close to. She claims I shouldn't feel excluded because she will be there for me, and that she'd go on holiday with my group even if her girlfriend wasn't invited. She then unloaded a lot, saying I've changed since getting into a relationship, that I put my girlfriend first too much, and that I don't prioritize our friendship, and even suggested that I'm letting my girlfriend come between us. She said that she loves me and that we've drifted, but blamed it largely on how everything is about her lately. I understand where she's coming from, but from my perspective, it's hard to go on a trip where my girlfriend is pointedly excluded while other partners are gradually being included. I'm not asking for them to be best friends. I just want them to be civil. My girlfriend has never caused any drama or spoken ill of my best friend, so it's hard seeing her treated like a problem when she's been respectful. Now my best friend is telling me that if I don't want to come without my girlfriend, then I should just simply not come. I do want to be there for her birthday, but I also don't want to throw my partner under the bus or pretend this isn't hurtful. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm incredibly confused. Okay, first of all, I do think you're the jerk simply because you let this go on for so long. Dude, what is your friend talking about? Of course your girlfriend's gonna get between some friendships. Like, you're gonna spend time with her and want to be with her all the time. But it just baffles me that your best friend is trying to be like, oh, I just don't like her, she makes me uncomfortable. And yet you still sit idly by and be like, oh, that's okay, no big deal, let's still be best friends. It's like, no dude, you gotta have some kind of like backbone. Stand up for your girlfriend and say, listen, don't talk to her like that. So if I was in your shoes, I would not even be asking to go on this trip. I would happily be like, okay, well if my girlfriend's not going, then I'm not going either. Because from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like your girlfriend's doing anything wrong. And if anything, the problem's with your best friend and with you for not doing anything about this much sooner. My entitled boss refuses to give me the time necessary to move my family to another location. So I decide to play the game correctly by scheduling literally 2 surgeries that I would need that I was planning to do when I retired, forcing my boss to give me leave in a way that he absolutely was not happy about. Here's what happened. As a military officer, it was required to apply to retire 12 months out from your retirement date. I was in what I would call a mid-level manager job. I had about 40 employees, and we had a $500 million annual budget for our program. My team was really great, with very professional and competent people, and rarely had any issues. And you know what? We performed really well. They would come to me with their issues, and over time I saw patterns, and we would end up fixing them. For instance, one issue that we solved saved the organization $64 million over a 4-year period. We had a lot of other small wins, but that was the biggest one. Now, my boss, who was bucking for a general, was a complete jerk. And this was for lots of reasons, but just a sour and unhappy person. About 7 months from my retirement in the following spring, we decided to move my spouse and kids to my hometown to be able to start the new school year. We had a house and just needed to move and get set up. I asked for 3 weeks, and my boss would only give me about 2 weeks. That then only gave us a week and a half to get my family settled after the 4-day drive with my kids, animals, etc. Plus the furniture and everything to arrive just 2 days before I had to be on a plane back. So sure, I was salty, but I thought to myself, okay, game on. I was prior enlisted and I knew how to play the game by the book. It's also important to know that I only missed about 10 days of work in 23 years due to illness. Now, 2 things happened at this moment. No more multi-million-dollar savings ideas that made my boss look good came out of my office, and it was time for me to take care of stuff I neglected over the years. In regular meetings, when asked where the next savings was going to come from, it was always crickets. I also knew I needed surgery for an injury that I had, and I had some other medical issues I had been neglecting due to work and just life. I planned to take care of all of that post-retirement, as it would give me time to recover and figure out what I would do for a living, because I couldn't survive on just my retirement. Since my boss wouldn't let me get my family settled, I thought it was time to take care of all of my medical issues. So I made medical appointments to get checked out for all of these issues. I had 2 procedures that had me out of work for a week each, but the cherry on top was that I got surgery the day before Thanksgiving, and the doctor had me on convalescent leave for 4 weeks. Now, when you are on leave like that, you have to have a form signed by your boss, and it indicates the address where you will be taking that time to recover. And of course, I used my hometown address so my wife could help me recover. My boss was pissed and tried to deny the leave. It went to our version of human resources, and they said he had to allow it, and that made him even more pissed off. In the end, I got to spend the holidays with my family across the country and only had about 3 weeks left on the job before taking my terminal leave that he literally could not deny when I returned. I didn't want a ceremony or anything, and instead I just rode off into the sunset knowing that I had won in the end. Oh man, I love this so much because it sounds like the general you work for really was a jerk. Seriously, all he needed to do was give you like 1 week extra to move your family, and that would have been it. You didn't need anything extra, just give me time so I can move my family for God's sakes. So good for you for getting back at this guy because from the sounds of it, it kind of sounds like he deserves it. I quit my last job without giving any notice, and no, I'm not sorry in the slightest. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my manager was an overall nice person at first, but then they pulled me aside one day and said that I looked tired and that I wasn't adhering to the company's values. They wrote me up and said that if this continued, I wouldn't get past my introductory period. So I said to myself, fine. I tried my best to come to work and look more alert by dressing better, even though I was dressing properly anyways. I also went out of my way to do skincare and showered every single morning. Again, I came looking presentable, but I did this as a protective measure. Several months passed and it was good. Then one day I was fed up and put my head on my hand because I had so much work to do. Well, apparently they saw that and said they would take away my ability to work from home, even though I get my work done as it is. After this, they used to lash out and micromanage me all the time, and it came to a point where my coworkers and people from other companies said that they would defend me if it came down to a point where my job was on the line. I was the only person of color on my team, and I think that played a role. After aggressively searching, I found a new job in mid-2024. The second I got my offer letter, I called in sick for a few days. Then I went into their office and I quit right on the spot. I offered to work from home for 2 weeks, and they said no, so I quit without notice. I was also looking to get promoted, but I found a better role somewhere else. The funny thing is, I was very important to the department, and a few weeks later, someone else who was very important left as well. So you know what? If karma exists, my boss got served. Quitting without notice is the biggest power move that you can do if you're mistreated by your company. I also didn't tell human resources because they're not going to do anything about it, and instead you'll end up in more trouble. Honestly, I am not kidding when I say this. I love this so much because that job absolutely deserved to be left on a lurch trying to find a replacement for you. If they're going to micromanage you and be like, oh, you look really tired, you should really think about whether or not we should keep you past your introductory phase. Like the second anybody says that to me is the moment I'm going to be like, okay, I got to find another job. These people suck. So good for you for putting them in their place because these people absolutely deserved it. My entitled mother-in-law literally won't stop calling me and my husband on our honeymoon, as she has interrupted every single moment me and my husband have tried to share together, even going as far as calling the hotels that we're staying at in some kind of weird attempt to occupy all of our time, leaving me incredibly frustrated and wondering what I should do next. Here's how it's going down. I'm a 24-year-old female, and my husband and I embarked on our honeymoon 2 weeks ago. We've been together for 6 years and we just got married. Every single day, both my parents-in-laws have called us, not even to check in on us, but instead to have full-blown rants about family drama, asking if we can organize A, B, and C when we get back, why we haven't sent any photos, and if we're gonna have their grandchildren yet. Now here's the thing, I was regularly posting on Facebook stories until my phone would blow up with both parents spamming us by text messaging. Now I don't mind the occasional text every couple of days checking in, but it's getting ridiculous now. We're talking multiple times a day calling in. It has gotten to the point where we literally took out our phone SIM cards so we could spend some quality time together, but my mother-in-law called the hotel asking for us. I sent them the itinerary so they could know where we were and that we were safe so they didn't have to call us to ask, but this just made things worse. It has ruined our honeymoon. Every time we were about to relax, boom, the phone rings, and if we don't pick up, we get constant text messages, and if we don't answer the text message, she calls the accommodation. I've tried telling her that we need some space to enjoy our love bubble being newly married, but she literally got hysterical. Now, it's important to note that my husband hasn't set any boundaries with his parents, and these people are particularly needy since he's now moved out and all this other stuff. They also haven't quite accepted the fact that he's an adult and has also reconnected with his biological family because he's adopted. So seriously, how do we set boundaries with his parents in a gentle way that won't hurt their feelings? What should I do? Oh man, if there's ever been a situation where you definitely need to put your foot down, it is right now. I guarantee you that your mother-in-law is never gonna let up from here on out if you don't set some serious boundaries boundaries. And unfortunately, I think you might have to be the one to do that because your husband is useless. Listen, there is no reason anybody should be calling you on your honeymoon, dude. Unless someone's died or like your house is on fire, like seriously, stop calling. And if I was in your place, I would be going to the hotel and being like, listen, don't forward any phone calls to our room ever again. There's no emergency big enough that we would ever need to answer anything from these people. Because seriously, this is so weird. And here's the thing, you're probably gonna hurt their feelings, like there's nothing you can really do about that. And the only way to not hurt their feelings is to just go along with it and be a pushover. But holy crap, you don't want to do that because they will be all over you for the rest of your marriage. And in my opinion, that is something I would want to set up like immediately, much sooner than later. Because it begins with them calling on your honeymoon and then it's gonna lead to God knows where else. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled client learns that professionals can in fact walk away, especially when they were as rude as the lady I had to deal with. And I'm honestly still blown away that they treated me so poorly, but also I'm so happy that I don't have to deal with them any longer. Here's what went down. So I work as an engineer and I do some consulting on the side, but typically only for people I know and as a favor. A good friend asked me to help his in-laws who were doing some fairly massive renovations and additions, and I agreed to do this solely because he asked me to do so. This is not something I have any interest or need in doing except as a favor. It's an old house and had can of worms written all over it with some of the changes they wanted to do. Now he warned me that the mother-in-law can be unpleasant, but that was an understatement. She seemed to think that because I was getting paid, even though I charge probably a tenth what the business world would probably charge, that she somehow could snap her fingers at me like a servant. I had a few unpleasant emails with her, but it was tolerable. She was rude when I was pointing out issues with their plans, but nothing too extreme. Well, that changed when I started trying to find a time for me to stop by and inspect a few areas of the house just to verify some of the information. I offered times to stop by on the weekend, but that didn't work for her. I tried evening times, but still no. Nope, she wanted me to stop by during my office work hours because that was best for her. When I told her no, this gets done on the weekends or in the evenings, she went from rude to incredibly hostile, telling me that she is paying me and that I work with her availability, not the other way around. I then brought my friend in on the chain and told them that I was out and to have fun working with whoever they got. The friend apologized and said no worries, not my problem anymore, and she emailed me back quite stunned that I was walking away, telling me that this is not how business is conducted. But you know what? I didn't bother responding. About 3 weeks later, I get an email from the husband now asking me if I would reconsider, and he promises that his wife won't speak to me or be involved in any way. I hear from my friend that while the quotes came back much higher, which was tolerable for them, the biggest problem was how long they would have to wait for it. They just bought this house and wanted to move in as soon as possible, but it's an incredibly busy time of year for the industry. It turns out when companies you reach out to are drowning in work and you have a potentially convoluted and messy project, they are not chomping at the bit to get your business. So now they're gonna lose the trades they lined up because design would be a month or two out. I passed on the request as I struggled to believe that she would be kept in check and had no desire to bail her out. And my friend just didn't care, said that it was nice watching her attitude give her consequences that actually affected her in a negative way. Oh my gosh, this pisses me off so much. I can never understand why people act like this. Like seriously, all you have to do is be a respectful person and work with the person that's being hired, and then literally all this gets solved. Instead, the mother-in-law in this story decided to be like, oh no, you work for me. We're paying you. That means you have to come when I want you to be here. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm not desperate for money, there's no way on earth I would ever put up with this. And it sounds like the original poster was doing this for like a tenth of the normal rate that they would charge. So this lady's already getting a discount and still acting like an idiot. Like, dude, what's going on right now? Why are you biting the hand that's feeding you? So I love the fact that the original poster walked out and said, okay, have fun. This is no longer my problem, because this lady's attitude was so out of line. And there's no way that deserves to be rewarded in any way, shape, or form. Am I the jerk for making my sister's gender reveal cake gray? All because she wouldn't tell me the gender before the party. Because right now, everybody's pissed off at me. And at this point, I'm not sure how to fix this situation. Here's how it went down. I'm a 22-year-old male and I bake as a hobby. And I'm actually pretty good at it. Like, I get paid under the table for weddings and baby showers kinda good. My sister is pregnant and wanted me to make the cake for her gender reveal. So it's like, cool, no problem. I asked her to send me the info so I could prep the inside, either making it a classic pink or with blue filling. She then says to me, oh no, I want to be surprised too. Just make it neutral for the reveal and we'll all find out together. I was like, huh, so you want a gender reveal cake with no gender revealed? She says she'll have someone email the information to me later on, but that someone never did it. Deadlines come up and I still have no gender. So I make the cake and it's gray on the inside and gray on the outside. Just this full-on cement vibes. I even added little clouds for effect. It still tasted great, but visually, it was incredibly grim. The reveal day comes along and they cut into it, and my sister looks pissed off. Her husband's confused and people start murmuring. Then she pulls me aside and says, "Why did you make it gray? That's so passive-aggressive." Calmly, I reminded her that no one told me the gender. And for reference, I did follow up a few days later to try and check on this, and she said, yeah, someone's taking care of it, even though nobody did. I said to her that I literally had no data to work with. I told her I wasn't about to guess or go full improv on someone's baby cake. Now, my mom says I embarrassed her in front of the family and that I should have tried harder. But tried harder to do what? Some of the gender through vibes? So am I the jerk for making the most neutral reveal cake in history? Because right now, everybody's pissed off and I don't know what to do. Okay, yeah, I gotta be honest here, you kind of are the jerk. Like, seriously, what were you thinking? Instead of following up and calling them and being like, no, you don't get it. Seriously, you need to tell me what the gender is, or let me talk to someone who does know. Like, instead of doing that, you're like, okay, I'm gonna make a concrete slab. Like, dude, what are you doing? This is a gender reveal cake. There's no point in having the cake at all if you're not gonna give, like, I don't know, blue or pink filling in it. And don't get me wrong, I think gender reveal parties are stupid. Like, they've made forest fires before. Like, it's all just so dumb in my opinion. But it sounds like your sister really wanted this to be something special and it just did not happen. And I don't know, if I was making a cake for a gender reveal party, I would make sure no matter what, I had that gender regardless of what my sister felt. Like, that literally is 100% the job. You need to have something that says, oh, it's a boy or a girl, not just this gray slab that literally is expressionless. Like, what's going on? You couldn't even like mix it between the two and be like, ooh, I've got blue and pink filling in there in like a striping pattern. If you're really as good as you're saying, then why do you do something like that? Because your sister's right. Yes, that is incredibly passive aggressive. So from my point of view, I think you definitely are the jerk. And your sister has every right to be pissed off because this, in my opinion, was incredibly messed up. My toxic manager literally tries to performance manage me out of a job, as they tried to micromanage everything that I was doing to such an extent that they thought they would kick me out of my job purely from frustration. But what they didn't know is that I was up for the challenge, eventually beating them at their own game in a way that I am so satisfied by. Here's how it went down. Years ago, I worked for a supervisor who just didn't like me. No reason why, since I just came to work, did my job, and went home at the end of the day, but he decided that I was terrible at what I did and decided to performance manage me out of my job. Well, when he tried this, I said to myself, game on. He wrote me out for some vague BS and asked me to sign it, but since it didn't show any hard facts and data, I asked for some kind of examples of this. Well, the meeting ended with a document unsigned, since he literally didn't have an example for this. He then tried it again with an example this time, and I asked how often this would be reviewed for feedback, how the feedback would be given, and how the improvement or non-improvement would be measured. He didn't have a solid answer, so again, no document was signed and the meeting ended. The next time me and Human Resources were in the meeting and had all his documentation and the answer to my question from the prior meeting, he decided to be so smart on how feedback would be given that he said it would be sent out daily via email. So I signed the paper and he gave me a smug smile. Well, the next day comes along and shockingly there was zero feedback given, no email sent for the rest of the week. I then get called into a meeting with the boss and Human Resources with a paper saying that there was no improvement and I was being put on warning for termination. But fortunately, this is where I said, I'm sorry, but can you show me the emails where feedback was given daily as outlined? Well, there were none, and eventually the meeting ended. The next day, email was sent with feedback, and I responded with facts and data. And on that first day, I didn't get any response back. The day after, an email was sent again with feedback. And yet again, I responded noting that I hadn't gotten any follow-up for the day before, and responded to that day's email with facts and data. On the third day, I again noted that I hadn't gotten any answers to the prior 2 days' questions, and added more facts and data for this one. I then followed up with the Human Resources person and I sent it back. Well, apparently after much discussion, my boss decided that it was too hard to performance manage someone out of a job, and my work was suddenly just fine after all. I love this so much because the original poster was like, oh, okay, we're gonna go on like the micro level of getting this done? Sure, let's do it. This is like StarCraft 2, baby, let's go. I'm ready for this crap. Because clearly the manager was just trying to like push you out of a job for some stupid reason. Like, that's just so dumb, and it seems like they're just playing the game to try and like get rid of you instead of you actually doing something wrong. But good for you for keeping up with this and showing them how dumb this guy was truly acting, because this kind of behavior is so annoying and so uncalled for. Today, I messed up by wearing my AirPods to a job interview and forgetting that my AirPods have a microphone, because I quickly found out that my interviewer could hear everything I was saying to myself before the meeting started, leaving me mortified that I ruined this job interview from the very start. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a couple of days ago and I'm still cringing thinking about it. I had a Zoom interview for a remote position and it was full-time, had benefits, and seemed like a solid opportunity. So I actually took the time to properly prepare. I had my notes, I practiced my answers, and I even changed into a decent shirt. So I'm sitting there waiting for the host to join, and I've got my AirPods in like always. I didn't even think twice, and Zoom just said waiting for host, so I figured I had a minute to just relax. And for some reason, I started talking to myself out loud. Not loud, just kind of mumbling pep talk kind of stuff. Okay, just be normal, you got this. Don't ramble, smile, pretend like you have it together. Then I muttered to myself, you're not a mess. You just look like one right now. And that's when I heard it. Hey, we can hear you by the way, but no rush though. It turns out the interviewer had joined silently, and Zoom defaulted to my AirPods mic, so I had been broadcasting my little self-deprecating pep talk straight into the meeting. At that point, I just froze. I couldn't even think of a recovery. Just awkwardly laughed, turned on my camera, and tried to power through like nothing happened. The interview went okay, I think, but now the HR guy definitely knows I'm running mostly on vibes and caffeine, and I'm honestly still embarrassed and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, personally, in my opinion, and I can only speak to what I would do, if I was a recruiter of some kind and I heard somebody giving themselves a pep talk to get ready for the interview, I wouldn't see that as like a total like deal breaker. If anything, I would see that as really endearing. They're trying to like get it together and have a good interview. Like I would think that would be awesome. And I'm willing to bet the interviewer probably didn't care that much, because from the sounds of it, they're like, hey, no rush, but we can totally hear you, and just kind of moved on from there. Now, if they brought it up over and over again in the interview, I would take that as a bad sign and be like, okay, this is probably not going to work out. But I think the fact that you held your own is complete evidence that, yeah, you're probably good for the job, especially after dealing with something so awkward right on the spot. My coworker's psycho mother called me at work because her sweet boy had to stay late and work just like the rest of us, resulting in one of the weirdest conversations of my life, as this woman literally tried to scream at me about her 30-year-old son. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last week, but I still think about it sometimes and feel both secondhand rage and pity. A new guy joined my team at the start of last month who we will call Sam. Sam is a quiet guy in his early 30s, polite to a fault, and always looking over his shoulder like he's about to get in trouble. At first, I thought he was just shy, but within a week, I figured that something was off. He would get these phone calls every 30 minutes, literally like clockwork. Eventually, I asked him if everything was okay, and that's when he admitted that it was his mother. She needed to know what he was doing at all times. Like literally, she would ask, where are you sitting? What are you eating? Who are you talking to? Those types of updates. He said he was raised that way and just never broke the habit. I could see him shrink into himself every time she called, like the life got sucked out of him in real time. Anyways, it's the end of the month, and we had to stay back late to wrap up some department reporting, and pretty much everyone had to stay a couple extra hours. It was quiet, we were all working, and suddenly Sam's phone rings again. He steps outside, and then 2 minutes later, he comes back inside looking white as a sheet of paper. He says to me, hey, my mom wants to speak with you. I thought he was joking, but he was not. He looked like he was about to cry. I took the call out of sheer disbelief, and oh boy, I wish I had not. This woman unleashed on me. How dare you make my son work past office hours? He needs to come home and rest. You don't know what he's been through. Don't you know how dangerous the roads are? I honestly was too stunned to even respond properly. I just said, ma'am, I think Sam can explain the situation better. And then I handed the phone right back to him. And that's when something amazing happened. Sam finally snapped. He didn't yell, but his voice was steady. I need this job, Mom. You can't keep doing this. I'm staying late because that's my responsibility and everyone is here too. Please, just stop. It was quiet for a second and then he just ended the call. And honestly, I was proud of him. I know how hard it is to stand up to your parents, especially when they try to control you your whole life. We wrapped up an hour later and I offered to take him out for a cold drink just to decompress, and he looked like someone who had finally removed a 20-year-old weight off of his chest. But when I dropped him off near his house, he gave me a small awkward smile and just said, thanks, tonight's gonna be rough. Now, I haven't heard his mom's voice since then, but he still gets those calls, but just less frequently now. And I really hope he makes it out okay. Some cages don't even have bars. You just carry them around in your head. Okay, dude, if my mom called me every single day in the way that Sam's mom called him, I think I would lose my mind. There's no way that's gonna be okay with me. I would tell her, hey, you gotta lose my number and stop this. You're literally embarrassing me. Because you know for a fact this guy's humiliated by this. He's in his 30s and his mom is bugging him constantly about what he's doing. Like, dude, that is not the age for anybody to be like, oh yeah, I need to know what my sweet boy is doing. But the biggest thing I took away from this, and the thing that I really like the most, is that the original poster didn't make fun of Sam. They didn't try to humiliate him, even though this is really funny and it would have been easy. Instead, they said, hey, let me take you out for a drink. And that for me is like, man, you are a good coworker and you have your head on straight. Because this was obviously so embarrassing for Sam as it is, so much so that he didn't need anybody else dogpiling on top of what was already an awkward situation. My manager demands that I stay where I'm at and do my job, despite the fact that there was nothing to do at my current location, and I was asking for something else that I could do. But after being verbally thoroughly berated by this lady, I decided to maliciously comply, showing to her once and for all how stupid she truly is. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I used to work for a pharmaceutical compounding company. Now these are factories that are made up of several rooms of varying cleanliness, graded D through A, with D being the least clean. These rooms are thoroughly cleaned each day but required special deep cleans at least once a month. I was scheduled to work in the D box room, which is a grade D, where I would take medicines and devices out of their boxes, record the relevant numbers from each individual item before cleaning with 70% alcohol and sending them through an airlock hatch into a grade C room. However, on this day, the grade C room attached to D box was being deep cleaned and couldn't be used until the next day, meaning there was literally nothing to D box. I asked my managers where they wanted me to work, and the conversation went as follows. I said to them, hey there, since there's nothing in D box, should I go and help with the deep clean or go to unit A and B, which is a different set of clean rooms? They responded by saying, well, what does it say on the schedule? I said, well, it says D box, but there's nothing in there, and I don't want to spend hours standing around. They responded back by saying, if it says D box, then go to D box. I said to them, look, there's a deep cleaning happening. There's literally nothing to do in D box. They responded back by saying, there's plenty to do in there, so go and do it. I can't believe I'm having this conversation with you. Just do as you're told. So I went into D box. The contents of the room were an empty bin, a bottle of 70% alcohol, some wipes, and myself. So I cleaned the room with the alcohol, and then I stood around for 2 hours. Over the intercom, the people doing the deep clean asked what I was doing. I replied to them the conversation I had with the manager, and I got a laugh out of them, and they said, oh yeah, honestly, I'm not surprising. That lady's a jerk. And I then proceeded to stand still for another hour. After being standing stationary for 3 hours, my manager barged into the room and hissed at me. What on earth do you think you're doing? You've done nothing but stare at the wall for 3 hours. What makes you think you can get away with doing nothing when everyone else is working so hard? I tried to respond by saying, I'm doing what you asked me to do. But she said to me, this is not what I asked you to do. I told you to come in here and do your work. I then said back, well, I told you there was no work to do in here, and I asked to go somewhere where there was work. She then said to me, there was work to do in here when I sent you here. But I responded back and said, no, there wasn't. I wouldn't have asked for something to do if there was. She then screams at me, get out and go to Unit A. If you ever repeat this stunt, I will investigate you for gross misconduct. I then responded back by saying, if doing what you asked is gross misconduct, then you should probably investigate this particular incident. At this point, I walked past her and I went and I did my job in the other units. Later on, I was chatting to the supervisor who had been sat with her on the monitoring station. They told me that she had watched me on the camera for the entire 3 hours, getting progressively more and more wound up. Now, there never ended up being an investigation, and that manager entirely stopped talking to me until she tried and failed to fire me for totally different reasons. But regardless, it felt good to get back at her because her behavior was completely disturbing. Oh man, this is so funny to me. You clearly have a manager who just doesn't know what they're doing, and they try to boss you around, but it ends up like backfiring big time. So good for you for putting them in their place, because that lady sounds like a massive idiot. My entitled boss keeps saying he's gonna fire me for not doing my job, despite the fact that he gives me impossible jobs to do and impossible deadlines to meet. And after dealing with his verbal beating for weeks after I just started this job, I decided that enough was enough, as I pushed forward to not only complain to corporate, but also ruin this guy's life entirely in a way he has still never recovered from. And I honestly feel so good about the revenge I got on this jerk. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few years back, I got hired as a supervisor for a local government, and I was to help supervise about 10 employees. Above me was a manager, and he was a terrible leader and would often yell at people, make slurs, and give impossible tasks or deadlines. On my 3rd day in on the job, he yelled at me to learn how to do my effing job right in front of all the employees, and he even made snide remarks to other employees that he was going to terminate me on probation. He demanded that I keep a communication log with every task he assigned me and update it as I completed them. He also chastised me my first weekend for not having any questions emailed to him by the end of the week. He told me he expects me to send 3 questions every week until I'm off probation. The next week, I sent him 3 questions as required, and he replied back to look up the answers myself. He was literally out to get me. He would give me a task, then another one, and then ask me why I didn't get the first one done already. I also found out that he rode the old supervisor that way until he got enough dirt on him to terminate him. So it was at that moment I decided it was war. I kept a log of every perceived policy violation, broken rule, inappropriate comment, and people who witnessed it. I also engaged other supervisors and employees from other departments. After 28 days of employment, I was ready to quit. I kept a resignation letter in my car, and that gave me the power I needed to press on. After 28 days, I filed a formal complaint with Human Resources, and at the time, I convinced the other supervisor to do the same thing. After that, several employees filed file complaints, and a group complaint was eventually filed. Well, Human Resources investigated the complaints, and the manager was placed on administrative leave. The investigation concluded that the manager did violate numerous policies, created a hostile work environment, and he ended up resigning. Ever since then, he has been burning bridges at every employer, literally 3 so far, and went from a manager of 15 employees and a great pension making $95,000 a year to a low-level labor employee making about $25 an hour in a hole-in-the-wall facility. And to be completely fair, he created his own problems, but in the end, I just happen to be the one person to help Human Resources see it and finally take action. Man, this is one of those satisfying moments when karma finally backhands the person who absolutely deserves it. I can't stand bosses who go on like power trips like this where they're like, okay, here's an impossible job that if you don't get done, I'm gonna fire you. It was literally your 3rd day and this guy's trying to be like, learn how to do your effing job. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? How about you train me to do my job and I might do it effectively? It really sucks, but I do understand why nobody complained about this, but it really begs the question, like, why did nobody say anything previously? Like, this behavior clearly has gone on for far too long. No one just goes into a job and says, okay, I'm now gonna be a monster to everybody around me. It's gotta be some slow roll situation where it's like, okay, he eventually got to this point, because there was obviously some tipping point where, yeah, they didn't do anything about this until it was too late. So from the bottom of my heart, I am so proud of the original poster because, my God, their boss absolutely deserved this punishment. And the fact that he's fallen from grace in such a major way, in my opinion, is exactly the way this should have ended. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My neighbors took a bulldozer to my yard, despite the fact that all of the property was clearly marked and they knew where the boundaries were at. And now at this point, I'm desperately trying to put up a chain link fence to make these people stop. Here's how it's going down. So my wife and I bought our home along with the empty lot between us and the neighbors. And this space was surveyed and boundary markers were placed. Well, a couple weeks after moving in, I go outside to find the boundary markers removed. Now, I had taken pictures, so it's not the end of the world. A few weeks later, I go outside at about 8 o'clock in the morning to find my neighbor clearing the back of my empty lot with some bobcat thing. There was a lilac bush back there and a few small trees, and when I saw this, I told him to stop. He did, but a lot of damage had already been done. My wife and I decided to try and make the best of it, so we put down a couple $100s worth of native wildflower seeds. I mean, we had talked about doing something like that at some point anyways. Now, a couple days after putting down the seed, I run to the gas station. I'm not even gone 15 minutes, but when I return, the neighbors are out there putting grass seed and straw down where we just put wildflower seed down. And at this point, I lost it. I asked them what in the world they thought they were doing. They said they thought it would look better and that we should be thanking them for the improvements. They let their giant horse dog use our yard as a toilet and tried to turn the back of our yard into a circle drive for their giant trucks. They are insufferable. They have been saving money for some work that needs to be done on our house, but because of them, we had to drop $2,500 on a chain link fencing, and I've spent the last few weeks putting that up when I can. I'm tired and I just needed to vent because these neighbors are literally the worst. Oh man, that really is so frustrating. They're not taking no for an answer. They're going on your property regardless. Like, that would drive me insane, especially when you know for a fact this is your property. So hopefully you get that fence up sooner than later because these people sound incredibly annoying. An entitled family steals my seat to the Minecraft movie. So instead of getting upset and ruining this moment for my child, I decided to sit right behind them and allow my kid to make as much noise as possible as my form of petty revenge for them taking my seat. Here's how it went down. Okay, so my 7-year-old spent a full year excited to see the Minecraft movie. He knew it was to come out April 4th, but I bought tickets for an early showing on Thursday the 3rd. The plan was for me and his sisters to pull him out of school a few minutes early and surprise him, and it worked beautifully until we got to our seats. A week out, I purchased 5 tickets for right in the middle of row F. I chose this row every time in our theater because it's the first in a section. This means my kids won't be kicking anyone's seat or talking right in their ear and don't have to try and sneak past anyone to go to the bathroom. Well, when we got to the theater 15 minutes early, I found the entire row was taken up by a rather large family. There were also a lot of them too. I then told the matriarch of that family that I thought they were in my seats. I double-checked my receipt for the theater and time, and she maintained that she also had bought these seats. I then walked out and grabbed a 17-year-old usher that I wasn't very confident in the authority of. I told him that I don't mind sitting in the G row, I just don't want someone else to come in having reserved those seats and make me the interloper. The woman fumbled with her phone a little bit, hemmed and hawed, but nothing came of it. Keep in mind, this was a Thursday afternoon matinee, so there weren't a ton of people filling into the theater. My kids could tell something was going on, so in the interest of modeling conflict resolution and saving the moment, I decided we'd take the Giro and see what happens. And this is when my petty revenge light bulb went off. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with chicken jockeys. It turns out it was only us and them in the theater, so I let my kids have a blast at this movie. I didn't shush them, I didn't care if they kicked the seats of the F row, I didn't care if they put their feet up, and I probably would not have cared if they threw a little bit of popcorn. But you know what? They didn't. And every time an F row interloper sighed and glared backwards, all I did was shrug, and it was glorious. After the movie, those people left behind all their popcorn buckets and trash, just like the scum that they were. Oh man, that's so stupid. Dude, you saved those seats ahead of time. You planned this out with your kid and you were trying to have like a good moment. And sure, you kind of saved it in the end, but those people had no business being in those seats. But good for you for getting some sweet revenge, because it sounds like those people absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for reminding my mom's best friend of how awful her daughter is when she tried to criticize me, saying that I was a failure for living at home and that my job isn't good enough, despite the fact that her daughter is literally in jail? Because right now, my entire family is pretty pissed off that I said anything, and now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my family and I celebrated Mother's Day last night by hosting a dinner. My mom's best friend, who we will call Holly, joined up with us because they have been close ever since childhood. My uncle, my aunt, their partners, my cousins, and my grandparents were there, so in total, there was about 16 of us, and the older generation knew Holly very well. Now, I'm 30 years old and still living with my parents. Holly began to ask when I plan to move out, and I explained my position and the expected timeline. She then laughed and said her daughter, who we will call Sophie, purchased a house at 18 while studying, and even bragged about Sophie's prestigious career. Keep in mind, her daughter's in her late 40s and the housing market was very difficult. She told my mom that she'd be embarrassed if her kids were still at home, and implied that I was a failure and that my job is not that good. Now, Sophie's in jail for a petty, hideous crime. There's been a lot on our local news about the case, and she's currently working towards a shortened sentence and placing blame on the victim of her crime, very publicly, mind you, through her lawyer. And yeah, she had an impressive career up until this happened, but there is no way that she will be rehired after she is released. I looked Holly in the eye and I said that while I might not be in a fancy career like her daughter, and I might still live with my parents, at least I didn't commit a crime. I told her that I think I know who my mom would prefer living under her roof. Holly ended up leaving not long after that, and it was obvious that she was in tears. My grandparents are now furious that I had the audacity to say this, and my uncle has sent a few strongly worded messages. My aunt and my mom are keeping silent, but my cousins are firmly on my side. They're all closer to my age and can empathize with my situation living at home. So seriously, did I do something wrong here? Because right now this is all incredibly frustrating. No, you are not the jerk. There's no way. If Holly's gonna dish it out, then she had better be ready to take it. Like, she literally said, "Oh, that is so embarrassing that you still live at home. You're a failure and your job is not good enough." Like, at that point, the gloves are off and I'm gonna say exactly what's on my mind as well about you. So no, Holly's a moron and there is no way that you're the jerk here, because if she's gonna dish it, then she had better be ready to take it. Am I the jerk for reminding my friend that he makes 8 times as much money as I do? Because now, after I said that, things are really awkward between us, and at this point, I'm not sure if I did something wrong. Here's how it went down. For a bit of background, my job doesn't pay the best, but I love the work, and obviously, I would like to be paid more. I was a listening ear to my friend a few years ago when he was looking for jobs. I heard him list all the pros and cons of each option, including the salary, so I know what his starting pay was at the one he settled on. It is literally 8 times more than my own annual salary. Our friendship is not influenced at all by our salary differences. We always split the bill, never pay for each other except for birthdays, all of which has worked out really well. I even house sit for him for free when he's away. Now that he has settled into his job, a job he will probably have till retirement, he has been complaining about it to me more and more. I listen, but I can't say I completely sympathize, mainly because I know I would happily deal with those problems if I got paid like him. He definitely is aware of how little I get paid because he has tried to help me look for new jobs, and I have commented on if the jobs paid more or less than my current salary. And no, we don't work in the same fields. Now, here's where the incident really comes into play. When we were hanging out, we discussed about wanting to go to this particular thing on a weekday or work day. I brought up how my job is pretty flexible and I can't be available after a certain time. He says to me, "Wow, you are so lucky, I could never do that." Then we kept discussing this thing and he kept reiterating how lucky I was and how it sucks that he can't. I eventually got annoyed and I said, "Dude, you literally make 8 times more than me. Would you say to an unemployed person that you are so lucky to have free time?" Well, after that, things got awkward and he hasn't been messaging me. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now things are really awkward. Okay, honestly, I do think you're kind of the jerk here. It sounds like he was just trying to find like some kind of common ground because I'm sure he's acutely aware that, yeah, he makes a lot more money than you do. And by the way, just because he makes a lot of money doesn't mean that he's happy. Like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be bad to have that kind of money in your back pocket that you're describing. But just because he's making that doesn't mean that he's not full of problems just like anybody else at his job. So yeah, I can see why things got awkward, because the way you reacted to that is literally just a little uncalled for. So yes, I do think you're the jerk, and I think it would be best to probably apologize and try to make things right. Would I be the jerk if I told my brother the real reason our family fell apart? Because right now, my dad's trying to act like he didn't cheat, even though he did. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So about 3 years ago, my parents split apart and are currently undertaking divorce proceedings. My brother is currently living with my dad while I live with my mom, with their house only being about 20 minutes away from one another. Both my parents are very tense and are not civil during these proceedings. When they announced their divorce, I had learned that my mom had an emotional affair for a few months, and this had led to the divorce. This has led my brother to blame my mother for ruining the family and blaming her for the split of my family, and they are not currently speaking. However, I know that my dad had a physical affair before this occurred, and had heard him and his affair partner being physical in the house while mom was home. However, my dad does not know this information, or that I know he has cheated. My father is currently blaming my mother for splitting the family apart, and is one of the driving reasons for my brother not speaking to my mother, and says that she cheated on him. And it's like, yeah, he's such a hypocrite. So would I be the jerk if I told my brother the real version of what happened? Now, here's some things that need to be considered. My parents are underway with divorce proceedings, and if this causes many tensions between them, this can cause financial stress between the both of them, and my mom could lose lots of money. My mom is aware I know of the affair, however, is worried about any implications of telling anyone. Also, many people who have chosen my dad's side in the divorce are aware of this. What should I do? Okay, this is so sketchy. Like, your dad's a massive hypocrite. He's trying to be like, oh yeah, look what my wife did. This is why I'm getting a divorce. And he's holding this up like a shield so that he can't get blamed for anything that's going on, when in reality, he's a cheater too. They're both cheaters, like they're terrible people. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I know I would tell my brother and be like, look, this is what's really going on. Because your dad at this point is being so obvious about it. It's clear that he's trying to be like, oh yeah, this is so awful. I can't believe she did this. As if he's trying to take like the moral high ground. Like, this is so weird to me. Because he is just as guilty as your mom, and the fact that he's trying to act like he's not, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk if I throw away someone else's remains if no one else from the family comes and claims this guy's ashes? Because right now I'm still very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so long story short, my roommate and I shared an apartment from 2018 to 2022. She was separated from her husband when he passed away in 2021. He was cremated, ashes were mailed to her, and she kept them in a box in a closet in the laundry room. In 2022, she bought an RV and moved to another city to be near her daughter and grandchildren. She asked me to hold on to the ashes and a few other things, namely pictures, clothing, and you know what? I agreed. She couldn't be near the ashes as they set her on edge and just rattled her. We had a falling out over money, more than $5,000, and I haven't heard from her since 2024 in September. I know she has some serious health issues that she's dealing with, and I really just don't want to talk to her, so my feelings aren't hurt. Well, fast forward, and I reached out to her son, a real estate agent, in 2025, asking him about his father's ashes on Messenger. He responded, but has made no effort to retrieve the ashes either. Now, did I mention that she basically walked out from her youngest son? That she literally left living in an RV in my backyard? What was supposed to be a short-term favor has turned into 3 years of her 40-something schizophrenic bipolar self living on my 6 acres. Now, I would give him the ashes, but I don't think he would handle it well at all, and I don't know what kind of episode it could trigger. He took the death really badly, as his whole world as he knew it ended. He's never lived on his own, and he is not doing a very good job at it. Well, I said in February, if no one made arrangements to come get these ashes, then I'm putting them in the dumpster. So am I the jerk if I do that? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Okay, this is so weird because you did a favor for this person and then they walked out and had a falling out, all over money of all things. And now nobody's wanting to claim the ashes of a family member that is not yours? Like, come on now, this is so weird. So no, I don't blame you for being like, I'm gonna throw this out if nobody wants it. Because why would you hold on to it? You did it as a favor back in the day, but guess what? Times change and it's time to like move on or do something different. Because this is literally not your responsibility anymore and they need to step up and do something about it. Am I the jerk for wanting a photo at my wedding with only my bride and our biological parents without my stepmom present? Because right now at this moment, my stepmom is being incredibly difficult, saying that what I'm asking is rude and that she thinks she should be involved in the picture as well. But now I'm incredibly devastated because this has really blown my expectations right out of the water. And at this point, I'm so confused and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wedding is later this month, and my wife-to-be and I would like to take photos of many configurations of family members, and it would mean a lot to us if at least one of those photos was of the two of us and each of our biological parents. My parents divorced over 10 years ago when I was in college. My dad remarried, but my mom has not. I love my dad, but I feel zero affection for my stepmom. I never have. She did not raise me and has only made life difficult for me, my mom, and my sister. However, I love my dad and I have accepted that if I want to maintain a relationship with him, then I have no choice but to tolerate her. I told my dad about the biological parents only photo that I want to take at my upcoming wedding, and he told me that his wife was being weird about that and refused to allow such a photo to be taken, but that he would talk to her to see if he could change her mind. Well, he called me back today and informed me that my stepmom absolutely refuses to allow my dad to appear in any photo with his ex-wife, especially if she isn't a part of it as well. She thinks that people will think they're still married, and that for me to even suggest such a thing is rude and disrespectful to her. Apparently, she has had prolonged, expletive-filled arguments with my dad over the idea that he could ever think of not taking her side on this. Now, I don't think I'm asking for anything unreasonable at all, and I think she's the one who is being selfish and disrespectful. I am not excluding her entirely from photos. She will be in many photos that day, but she is not my biological mother, and given how she has treated me and the rest of the family over the past decade, she should frankly be thankful that she was invited at all. All I want is one photo with my own parents on my wedding day, the one day in my life where I would hope that my fiance and I should get the final say. My fiance and her parents are completely on my side. She is upset and shocked that this is a conflict at all. Today, we had a call with the four of us, me, my fiance, my dad, and stepmom. On this call, my dad firmly said that he refused to appear in any photo with my mom without his wife right beside him. My stepmom even told me that, "I know it's your day, but you need to think about how you make other people feel." She then told my fiance, who's from another country, that in America, this is considered very rude. My fiance tearfully argued with them, saying nothing that I disagreed with, honestly. The call ended with my dad saying, "Let us know if you still want us to come to your wedding." So seriously, am I the jerk for thinking my stepmom is being completely unreasonable, and that my dad has let me down by siding with his wife over his own son and his son's wedding day? What should I do? Oh man, this is so messed up. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Your stepmom sounds like a monster, and I can't believe she's swaying your dad like that. Like, of course no one's gonna think, "Oh wow, they're still married." Literally all they have to do is stand on either side of you and take the picture. It's not that big of a deal. Like seriously, it would be easy. And the fact that your stepmother just can't even see that no, this is not that big of a deal, and it would be an easy photo shoot, like what, 2 seconds maybe? Like that's so crazy to me, and I just can't understand why she wouldn't do that. There's also the option of like maybe photoshopping the stepmom out and placing the mom in there, but like that might be a little complicated, and from the sounds of it, it would probably ruffle more feathers than it would be worth. But no, you're not the jerk for thinking your stepmom is being irrational, because trust me, she definitely is. My entitled family disowned me for 15 years over parking tickets, claiming that because I went to jail for 2 weeks, all because I couldn't pay for them, that this meant they needed to disown me to teach me a lesson. And now after 15 years, they finally have tracked me down and are demanding that I let them back into my life. And at this point, I'm honestly so shocked that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 36-year-old male and I got into some trouble 15 years ago. I take all the responsibility for this, and even to this day, I carry all the shame, the guilt, and embarrassment for it as well. Also, and this might come up, this is not cultural or religion. It's just shame to the family name. The situation was when I was 19 and my ID was stolen and being used in another state. This created a situation where my driver's license was suspended nationwide. Somehow, any and all notifications from the other state never made it to me. I started doing all the necessary things I needed to do to try and fix the problem. I, however, had a couple tickets in my current state that I needed to pay, but I couldn't because I needed to pay my rent and keep my apartment. Also, at the time, my full-time job was having problems and was borderline shutting down. So to try and make ends meet, I was doing a lot of freelance work as well, which is, again, my fault. I knew the company was in trouble, but I was still holding out hope that things would get better. I was hoping that maybe if I had a couple more freelance jobs, I would be able to finally pay the tickets. But no, this was never the case. And the long story short of it is that I was arrested and spent 2 weeks in jail. This is not ideal, but I guess in the long run, it worked out for the best by clearing the tickets in my home state. However, my family felt otherwise, and I was completely disowned because of this. I lost everything and everyone. The only reason I still had my apartment was because I had enough to cover the rent, and the freelance work kept up. It took another 6 months, but I was finally able to get the other state to release my driver's license. lessons. And so I decided that since my family hated me, I didn't need them. And so a year later, I changed my last name, my phone number, and my email. My social media is locked down so tight that you would think I was hiding national security secrets. I was able to finish college and get settled into my career, and at this point, I'm happier than I've ever been. Well, fast forward to present day, and 2 weeks ago, there was a knock on my door, and guess what? It was my mom and dad. Reminder, it's been about 15 years, and I had not spoken a word to either of them. The only thing I could get out of my mouth was to say, "How did you find me, and what are you doing here?" My mom's response was to say, "We spent $5,000 on a private investigator." And finally, a search on Facebook with just your first name found you, and the private investigator confirmed that yes, it was you. I responded by saying, "You didn't answer my second question. What are you doing here?" My mom then said to me, "It's been 15 years. Looking at where you are, it seems that you've learned your lesson and you are succeeding. You've missed out on a lot of things." I then ended with, "Yes, I have learned my lesson. One of them is don't think anyone will ever help you or be understanding, even your family. And yes, I did succeed, and I did it entirely without you. Please leave and don't ever come back." I then shut the door in their face and I locked it, and I checked the back door and I closed all the curtains. I'm guessing they hung around for another 15 minutes, knocking and demanding to be let in. I then just went back to bed, turning the fan on high, and I went right back to sleep. I did some research and they were right. I have missed out on a lot. I have nieces and nephews, new brother and sister-in-laws, but the truth is I don't know any of them, and I don't think I need to. I live a very quiet life. I can count on two hands how many friends I actually have. A friend said I may have taken it too far and that I should have given them a chance, and if I didn't like what they had to say, then I could have told them to go away. I was hoping that this was going to be the end of it, but now they've taken to literally following my every move. And I will be completely honest, they are harmless, but just a real pain in the butt. But also, I've been messing with them with the help of my friend, and it's made the scenario just a little bit lighter and just a little bit more fun. Now, this past week, the way my days off fell, I had a 5-day stretch, so I decided to go to the city for a few days. I'm walking distance to the Amtrak station, and they followed me. So I kept my AirPods in the whole time, and I know they were trying to talk to me, but I ignored the entire time. People on the platform even were telling me that they were talking to me, and I said that I know, but I don't want to deal with them. The train eventually came, and I got on and I left them behind, and man, did I love that. It finally got to the point where I finally acknowledged them. They weren't going to go away, so we met at the park across from my apartment. And you know what? I didn't hold anything back. I told them this was the one and only time I was going to talk to them. I took a page from the Matlock series and I told them that I was their judge. I was their jury. And I then told them that as far as I was concerned, they were guilty of anything and everything. And all I was doing was hearing what they had to say before I walked away from them. I then asked them why after 15 years they're now demanding to be back in my life and why they made the decisions they did to disown me. They told me that I ruined the family name and that the shame I brought to the family was horrible and that the only way to make it right was to get rid of me. They said that recently my name has been coming up in conversations and that the family has grown with a lot of new people, that the brother and sister-in-laws are asking questions about who I am, that I have a niece who they think I would love and get along with, and the same for a nephew who was born last year, stating that now should be the time to fix things. They said that looking at my apartment and the life that I had must mean that I learned my lesson about being a better person and managing my life better. I finally cut them off and I told them that I couldn't stand to hear it anymore. I mean, I was at the point I could hear my heart beating in my ears. I told them that I did everything completely by myself. Nobody from that life exists anymore, not one person. That they just need to tell everyone the truth. That I was in jail for 2 weeks, and because of this, the decision was made to get rid of me. I told them that I did it all on my own, and that only one of my cousins was actually there for me, which is a cousin by marriage, by the way, which is why I changed my last name to theirs. I told them that to this day, I'm doing everything on my own, and I rely on nobody, and I don't need or want them in any way in my life. They made their decisions, and I'm making mine. I told them this will be the last time we talk, and that I will be going to see a lawyer to see if there's anything that can be done to keep them away from me, and that if they continue to follow me around or show up at my apartment, I would have them arrested for trespassing. After that, I went back home and I again locked everything down. I pulled the curtains and I've been crying ever since then, because right now I honestly do not know what to do. Oh my god, dude, this is awful. This really is such a sad situation, because clearly you had a really rough time and nobody stepped up to help you. Like, you had these tickets that you had to pay and you couldn't do it, and so because of that you went to jail. But if your family really cared about their name and like maintaining the family honor, they would have stepped up and helped you pay for it. Like, I'm sorry, there's no excuse here. They could have helped prevent this if they really didn't want you to go to jail. But after the fact, they wanted to be like, oh man, this is too embarrassing. Our son has ruined the family name. We need to cut him out of our lives. Like, that kind of crap is so disgusting. I just can't believe they did that to you. So in my opinion, I think you're completely justified justified. These people turn your back on you, and even now after tracking you down to find you, they still don't understand that you didn't do anything wrong to the family. There's no lesson to be learned because the only lesson the original poster learned is that his family does not have his back, especially his parents, who would rather kick them to the curb instead of help them in their time of need. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I got revenge on a fellow coworker by doing to him what he did to me when it came down to marking down my time worked at the soccer games we referee for, resulting in my coworker eventually getting fired for breaking the rules. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm 15 years old and I work as a soccer referee. I will normally arrive 10 to 15 minutes early to a game, which is plenty of time to check in players from both teams and make sure the field is in proper playing condition. One game that I showed up to, I was the assistant referee. My center ref, an 18-year-old, we'll call him Dave for the sake of the story, told me that all refs need to be there 30 minutes early to every single game. Now, I know this is not true, so I just stayed silent. We ref the game as usual and returned to where we put our stuff at the end of the game. Dave then told me that because I didn't arrive 30 minutes early, he would mark that I didn't show up, basically telling me that I wouldn't get paid for the game that we had just worked. But I complained that this was a rule that he made up. He then left the game without saying anything else, figuring that would be all. Now, as a side note, and I think this is very important, if you referee without any assistant referees, you get paid like $5 more, and I honestly think that was Dave's plan all along. So when I got home, I decided to enact my revenge plan. I made sure to sign up to be center referee at every game where Dave was being an assistant referee, and poor Dave showed up to his next game 15 minutes early, which is absolutely unacceptable. I said nothing the whole game, but only marked him absent, which means he wouldn't get paid. This went on for a week and a half until his paycheck came in, and he was about $120 off of what his total should have been. And I absolutely did make sure every game that Dave was less than 30 minutes early was marked down. Well, Dave emails one of the main referees who runs everything to see what the problem was. And one of the main referees, let's call him John, told Dave that he wasn't there, meaning that he wouldn't get paid. Dave put 2 and 2 together and realized exactly what I did. Emails were then sent between Dave, John, and myself until John finally had the full story. Well, Dave was fired for making up rules and I got paid for the first game with Dave. So it goes to show you that you shouldn't take advantage of young people because sometimes it might backfire in a spectacular fashion. Dude, I am so proud of the original poster here. This honestly is crazy to me. First of all, that guy Dave absolutely was just trying to get paid more. He made up some stupid rule just to make it be like, oh yeah, you weren't here, so I get paid more. Thank you very much. And it's like, my God, how unfair is this? You are literally there working and doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And despite that, this guy's like, oh yeah, you didn't show up. So it's honestly so satisfying that you did the same thing to him over and over again. And on top of that, you did it silently. Like you just silently said, okay, I'm going to be the center referee and I'm going to mark you absent every time you're not 30 minutes early. Congratulations and have fun. So truly, the original poster is my hero. I am so proud of what they did. And honestly, they got back at Dave in a spectacular way. Am I the jerk for refusing to attend my sister's wedding or even giving her a gift after she invited my ex to come to the wedding, but specifically excluded my wife? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister is getting married in a few weeks. She recently sent out the official invites, and while I was included, my wife was not. When I asked about it, my sister told me the decision was intentional. She said she wants her wedding to be as peaceful as possible, and that she doesn't feel comfortable having my wife there. For a bit of context, my wife and sister have never gotten along particularly well. There's no major incident or explosive history, just mutual dislike and a few passive-aggressive exchanges over the years. That being said, my wife has always been respectful at family gatherings, and I've never seen her act out. What makes this worse, though, is that my ex-girlfriend, who I dated for 4 years before meeting my wife, is invited to the wedding. My sister remained friends with her after we broke up 6 years ago. I didn't love it, but I never made an issue of it. But even still, it's incredibly hurtful to see that my sister would rather include someone from my past, you know, someone I haven't spoken to in years, over the person I've chosen to build a life with. I told my sister that I wasn't comfortable attending under these circumstances, and that I wouldn't be sending a wedding gift either. I said if she doesn't recognize my wife as part of the family, then she shouldn't expect me to play along with the celebration as if everything's just completely fine. She accused me of being petty and trying to punish her for setting boundaries. And even my parents have since called me up to say that I'm overreacting and that I should just go and keep the peace. But to me, this feels like more than a disagreement. It feels like a fundamental lack of respect for my marriage. But the family seems to think I'm making it about me. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to attend the wedding, as well as declining to have a gift because of how my wife has been treated? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off and I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is so toxic. There's no way I would ever show up up to that wedding. Like, I think the original poster is completely right. They should not be expected to show up just to like make the peace or whatever. That is so toxic, it's not even funny. And it's like, yeah, you know what? They might be right to some extent where you're like making it about you because they're the ones that made it about your wife. They literally are trying to like push her away and be like, you're invited, but your wife isn't. And if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be like, okay, well, my wife and I are like a package deal. So if she's not going, then I'm not going. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to go because honestly, this is such a weird situation. And I don't blame you for stepping away in the slightest. Today, I found out that my partner has been lying to me for 2 years about being allergic to strawberries. Because despite the fact that this is my favorite food of all time and making the effort to cut it out of my diet just to protect her, I'm now learning that all of this was a complete lie, leaving me so confused and unsure of what to do next. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I've been with my partner for 2 years, and very early on, she told me that she was allergic to strawberries. Now, for me, strawberries are my favorite fruit. Like, genuinely, one of my few foods I both loved and could rely on when I was anxious and struggling to eat. Long story short, she told me that she's allergic and that it could be dangerous if I ate them and then kissed her. So I stopped immediately and completely. I cut out strawberries, anything strawberry flavored, even things like strawberry gum and candy just to be safe. I didn't question it because when someone says they have an allergy, you take that seriously. Well, I just found out recently that she isn't actually allergic to them at all. And instead, she just doesn't like them. She didn't want me to eat them before kissing her because she simply doesn't like the taste. I know they're just strawberries and I know this might seem small to some people, but it doesn't feel small to me. It feels like I made a real sacrifice, no matter how minor it might seem, simply out of care and concern. And she let me believe that for 2 whole years. Like, she knows how much I love strawberries. I don't think I could ever imagine asking someone to give up something they love just because I didn't like it, let alone lying to them to get them to do it. Didn't she ever sit there and feel even a little bad watching me crave strawberries and not eat them because of what she said? I just find it so selfish and odd, and at this point, I'm completely speechless. Oh man, your partner is completely toxic and super weird. Lying and saying that you're allergic to it when in reality you're not and you just don't like the taste of it, like that really is selfish, especially since it's your favorite food. Like, dude, that's so dumb. And I'm right there with you. If someone's like, I have a food allergy or something even close to that, I think to myself, okay, their throat's gonna close up if they eat this or get anywhere near it, so I'm gonna cut that out of my diet completely. So like, seriously, I don't blame you for being speechless and being like, wow, this is a huge betrayal of trust. Because this really is, in my opinion, a big red flag and something I would never ignore. Am I the jerk for not taking down some yard flamingos after my neighbors complained about it? Because they're demanding I get rid of them even though I have no intention of taking them down. Here's what's going on. I bought a house a couple years ago and I've been working on making it look nicer. I spent a lot of time redoing the front gardens and trying to make it neat and nice. A few weeks ago, I was at a greenhouse buying some plants for the garden and I saw 2 yard flamingos marked down on clearance. And it was right then I thought to myself, yes, these belong in my garden. They're not everybody's cup of tea, but I think they're a lot of fun. I set them up when I got home and a couple days later, my neighbor was knocking on my door. She was demanding that I take down my flamingos because they're extremely ugly and they're lowering the property value of the neighborhood. Well, I looked at her and I told her I'm not taking them down because I like them, and the property value isn't going to hurt because of 2 yard flamingos. I also don't live in a homeowners association, and as far as I'm aware, there are no town ordinances about yard flamingos. Well, this neighbor has posted pictures of my house, the street I live on, and a close-up of my flamingos in our town's Facebook group just to complain about them. And some people agreed that I should take them down. After that, another neighbor came over to tell me to get rid of them. Even my own mother also agreed that I should take them down to keep the peace with my neighbor. But here's the thing, I like them. I smile when I see them when I pull into the driveway, so I have no plans to take them down. So with that in mind, I need to know, am I the jerk for not taking down my yard flamingos after some neighbors complained? Because right now, I'm honestly super annoyed. Dude, your neighbors have to be like super bored. Like, who in their right mind would go up to you and be like, oh, you need to take down those yard flamingos. They're just completely lowering the property value of my house and the neighborhood. It's like, dude, no, they're not. They're literally hurting nobody. The best part about this story, in my opinion, is the fact that you don't live in a homeowners association, which, my God, those things can be nightmares. Because if you did live in one, I can guarantee you they would make you take that down like yesterday. So no, I honestly don't think you're the jerk at all. I think this is very harmless, and these people are just super bored because you're not hurting anybody, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Am I the jerk for moving someone else's birthday cake out of reach of a spoiled, rotten toddler who was literally sitting there destroying it one scoop of their hand at a time? Because right now, I'm being made to look like the bad guy, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was just at my girlfriend's mom's birthday party. We had ordered an expensive cake for her and split the cost 3 ways with her sisters. Her brother, who by the way never contributes to any of the shared presents, brought with him his spoiled 2-year-old kid. While everyone was singing happy birthday, the kid started sticking his hands into the cake and licking them, and picking off all the decorations. I looked around in shock, but her brother and his wife were just smiling at this, as if it was the absolute cutest thing ever, and everyone else was just totally unfazed and said nothing. So I bit my tongue and I didn't say anything either, but I did reach over and move the cake a few inches out of reach for the kid. Well, immediately the kid started thrashing around and screaming like crazy, and it was then that everyone glared at me like I was the most evil piece of garbage on earth for doing what I did, and rushed over to placate the kid. "Aw, you poor thing, it's okay." They then turned around and gave him more cake. But you know what? I doubled down and I calmly and rationally said that what the kid was doing was incredibly unhygienic. It wasn't his birthday cake, and he's old enough to be taught to wait literally 1 minute until he gets a slice of cake, instead of destroying someone else's birthday cake and covering it with germs. Well, now I'm being made out to be a huge jerk for doing or saying this, and apparently I ruined the birthday party. Considering it's the entire family's reaction, it's making me start to question whether or not I am just a grumpy jerk or not. So truly, I need to know if I'm at fault here, because right now I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is so strange. Like, I just can't understand anyone who's like, "Oh my god, my kid should have been allowed to stick his hands in the cake. You know, the cake that you paid for. How dare you try and keep it away from him?" Like, dude, what are you talking about right now? That's an expensive cake they bought, and the brother didn't even help pay for it. Like, are you kidding me? Why is nobody correcting this brat and being like, "Get your hands out of the cake, stand in the corner," or something, some kind of punishment? Why are you suddenly the bad guy for being like, "No, you can't do that"? Because trust me, these people are gonna be raising an absolute nightmare in like, let alone 4 years. Like, that kid's gonna run that house pretty much the rest of their life if they don't do something right now. Like, just look at the way they acted when the kids started throwing a temper tantrum. They're like, "Oh, you poor little thing, here, have more cake that you destroyed." It's like, oh my god, are these people serious right now? Like, you can't do that. You're telling the kid that no, there's no consequences for destroying something that isn't yours. And that, dude, I can't. I literally can't. That is so annoying to me. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. You are not the crazy one here. And I think your extended family's at fault for the way that they're treating you. Am I the jerk for refusing to let someone else check my phone after a coworker falsely accused me of taking pictures of her? Because they say that if I have nothing to hide, then I should have no problem showing my photos. But I still said no, and now I'm incredibly pissed off, and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, this is a throwaway account. So this happened at work. I'm an 18-year-old male, and I was on my stuff normally, scrolling through my phone and watching YouTube videos, when a coworker suddenly accused me of taking pictures of her. And when she said that, that really caught me off guard. I then told her that I hadn't taken any photos and that I was just watching videos on YouTube. But she didn't believe me and started getting louder and kind of annoying, drawing attention from nearby coworkers. She then said to me that if I have nothing to hide, then I should just show her my photos. Luckily, the manager was nearby and came over because of the commotion. We then both explained our sides. The manager then said that if I wasn't hiding anything, then I could just show the last 2 photos on my phone to clear it up quickly. But here's the thing, I have a lot to hide that I didn't want to show. And this is nothing illegal, creepy, or weird, and definitely nothing involving her. But still, it's private stuff that I don't want anyone else seeing. So you know what? I refused. I told my manager I was willing to prove my innocence in other ways, but I didn't want to compromise my privacy. As a good faith gesture, I showed my phone's battery usage stats, which clearly show that I haven't used the camera app recently. I also suggested to check the security footage itself. After reviewing the footage, it showed my phone was pointed at the ground the entire time, and the angle wouldn't have even allowed me to take a picture of her. So I was completely cleared. But even so, a few of my coworkers later told me that I should have just shown the photos, because according to them, she had the right to know that she wasn't having her picture taken. But I told them that the evidence proved my innocence, and there was absolutely no need to show anything, specifically not to her, someone who I've never trusted. So am I the jerk for trying to maintain my privacy? Because right now I'm still very pissed off. Oh my gosh, I would lose my mind over this. There's no way I would sit down and like take this for a second. You mean to tell me that your manager and a coworker, as well as other coworkers, are trying to be like, you should just show your photos. It's not that big of a deal. If you have nothing to hide, then why won't you show it? Like, no, that's not how it works at all. You have a right to privacy. You're under no obligation, in my opinion, to show your phone to anybody. And I think even speaking generally, don't police officers need like a warrant just to look through your phone? So like, where does this one coworker and everybody else get like this weird authority all of a sudden to be like, hand over your phone, prove your innocence? Because quite literally, the security footage already cleared you out, with your phone's battery usage completely clearing you of any accusation, which by the way is a good idea. That's something anyone should hold on to, because I didn't think about that, and the original poster is really smart to do that. Because what's going on right now, your coworker literally falsely accused you of something that you didn't do. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter what photos were in there that you didn't want them to see. The main takeaway that I really stand by is that it's nobody else's business and you have a right to privacy. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for taking a stand. My entitled roommate lies to all of us and gets away with not paying rent for literally 2 years. But after me and the rest of my roommates found out about this, we decided to get some revenge by ruining this guy's chance at ever getting his deposit back by throwing the most destructive and messy party we've ever had in our life. And I honestly don't feel bad about it in the slightest because this guy absolutely deserved it. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I was renting a 6-bedroom house with 8 other people 2 years ago. We were all in our 20s, earning good money and partying very hard. The landlord didn't want to deal with us individually, so it was decided that one person had to be responsible for paying rent for all of us. Now, the person who paid the rent, who we will call Dave, also paid the initial deposit. Dave had rich parents, so he always had spare money to help out, and everyone agreed that he was a great bloke. Now, Dave promised to pay the rent for the last month for all of us if we cleaned the place up when the contract ended. Now, the house wasn't trash, but needed a deep cleaning and decorating and a few repairs to get the deposit back. And since we knew it was about $3,600 for 6 months of rent that was deposited, we just completely agreed with him. Unfortunately for Dave, he was away when the landlord came to do the initial inspection to let us know what needed to happen for the deposit to be returned. And in conversation, it turned out that the rent was being split 8 ways and not 9. Apparently, Dave had been living there rent-free for 2 years without any of us knowing. So we had a massive party over a long weekend, drinks were spilled, and a few fights broke out on more than one occasion. We didn't put anything out for the dustman for 2 weeks, cleaned absolutely nothing, and moved out the day before Dave got back. Literally 1 day before handover. Surprisingly though, he managed to get $400 of the deposit back and tried to make all of us pay the outstanding money that we owed him. He eventually gave up after threats of police involvement if he tried to pursue it. Well, fast forward and I found out a few years later that our actions totally wrecked his plan to put a deposit down on the house he was saving up for, which is even better because that money was literally ours and not for him to use how he pleases. Dude, how did Dave do that? Seriously. This guy has rich parents and he tries to sit there and be like,
Oh yeah, I'll take care of the rent, guys. Don't worry about it.
and he literally just sneaks past everybody for 2 years not paying any rent. Like, don't get me wrong, yeah, this guy's absolutely the jerk, but also that's really funny. I bet every single month this guy's trying to sweat silently and be like, okay, maybe they won't notice. Maybe this time they won't notice and just let me just keep getting away with this. And sure, you did get back at him, but I think in a way Dave did kind of win because although he didn't get the house that he wanted, he did get away with like not paying rent for a long time. And even though that makes him a trash human being, I still think it's incredibly hilarious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled scammer charges me over $1,000 for a deep cleaning bill that honestly makes no sense, as we left the venue that we rented out completely spotless. But after doing some digging, I realized that they were trying to scam us out of our money, which then caused me to get some revenge by ruining her business from the ground up. Here's what I did. Okay, so I rented a small event space for a surprise party. The place looked nice online, it was a decent price, and the host seemed polite enough until after the event. But out of nowhere, she hits me with a $1,200 deep cleaning bill, and she said that we left the place unusable, which was wild because we barely used the kitchen and left it cleaner than we found it. I asked for proof and she sent blurry photos of trash that wasn't even ours. And while I did appeal through the booking platform, I was denied. And it was clear she was running a side hustle, scam a few hundred off each booking and hope no one fights too hard. So you know what? I did my own cleaning. I found her business on every platform that I could. Stuff like Yelp, Google, Facebook, even an event site. And I left detailed, calm, 1-star reviews with photos from our event showing how spotless the place was when we left. Well, it turns out that I wasn't the only one. My reviews picked up traction and others came forward and had the same scam. And within weeks, her rating dropped from nearly 5 stars all the way to under 3. Well, the last time I checked, she's now offering 50% off of all bookings. So I guess you could say someone's trying to clean up her own reputation. Okay, I am so glad you did this because I've always wanted to do this, but I've never had the courage to do it, so this was really cathartic. Especially a deep cleaning bill for over $1,000. Like, are you kidding me right now? What is going on right now? No cleaning bill should ever be that much. Did you mop the floors with liquid gold instead of like water and soap? Like, what's going on right now? But I think the fact that it really was a scam must have been like so validating because now it's like vindication that no, it's not just you, and yes, they've done this to other people. So good for you for going where it counts and hitting them online because that's a reputation that absolutely will take a long time for them to clean up. Am I the jerk for not letting my neighbor's kid ruin my lawn in the name of imagination as he wanted to pretend to be a pirate and bury stuff in my yard? Because once I shut it down, the mom of this kid kid basically guilt-tripped me into thinking that I ruined his imagination. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood with your standard backyard, some grass, a few old trees, and a weathered shed. It's nothing fancy, but I just try to keep it tidy. I'm on polite but not close terms with most neighbors, and we do wave and sometimes chat about the weather, but that's about it. There's a family 2 doors down with a boy who's maybe 9 or 10 years old, and lately he's gone full pirate mode. I mean fully committed. He's got an eye patch, a cardboard sword, and yelling, "Ye be cursed," to the squirrels. And at first it honestly was pretty wholesome. That is until I started noticing small holes in my yard, just little ones near the fence, and I honestly assumed it was raccoons. But then the holes got bigger. One morning I went out and found the ground beneath my shed completely torn up, with clumps of grass tossed around and a map pinned to the tree with a stick. Eventually I caught him out there mid-dig. I asked him what he was doing, and he straight up told me, "Yarg, I'm hiding my treasure. No one must know. This is the perfect hiding spot." I then told him calmly, "Hey, this is my yard. You can't dig here." He got a little huffy but ran off, and I figured that was the end of it, but no. The next day there was a new hole and it was bigger. There was even a tin lunchbox half buried behind the shed. So I dig it up and it's full of Pokemon cards, fake jewels, toy coins, and a few crumpled $5 bills. I bring it to his mom and I explain what's going on. But guess what? She immediately gets defensive. No apology, but just a heavy sigh and says, "Well, he's just using his imagination. I think it's sweet." I told her I don't mind the creativity, but just not in my yard. She rolled her eyes and said, "Can't you just let him have this? It's not like your grass is that nice anyways." I said as politely as possible that I didn't want holes being dug on my property by someone else's kid. I then handed over the lunchbox and then I just left. Well, that night she sends me a long text message telling me I humiliated her son, crushed his dreams, and created an environment where children can't be safe being children. She said he cried for over an hour and now thinks I'm the villain of his story, which is literally what she said to me. Well, you know what? I didn't reply. And listen, I get it. He's a kid. I didn't yell, I didn't shame him, and I even gave the stuff back. But I'm not thrilled about my yard being turned into a sandbox and getting insulted for not being okay with it. So am I the jerk for drawing a line and not entertaining a pirate storyline that involved my yard getting completely wrecked? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off. No, you're not the jerk. This mom is so weird. She's trying to be like, "Wow, you created a really hostile environment. My kid can't be a kid anymore. And the only way he can be a kid is by digging up your yard because that's ugly. Thanks." It's like, dude, if you really want your kid to be digging holes and like putting treasure in there or whatever's going on, then use your own yard, lady. Why do you gotta use mine? Like, your stupid kid can still be creative and all this stuff, but don't like dig up my yard. Like, seriously? And I guarantee you this is just the parent being like, "I don't want to deal with this, but also I'm not gonna tell my kid no." And instead of correcting their kid and being like, "Hey, stay off of other people's yard," she tries to be like, "Oh, this is your fault." I would honestly hate living next to someone like that because you can bet this is like not the last thing they're gonna complain about. Am I the jerk for losing my temper with my friend after they added bone broth to a soup that my girlfriend ate as he was convinced that she was not a real vegetarian? But after my girlfriend was violently ill in the bathroom, my entire friend group is completely in shambles after I laid into this guy. And at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, so my girlfriend and I are ovo-lacto-vegetarian, and we have been for approximately 6 months or so because she developed a sudden involuntary negative reaction to meat and some animal products. At best, she'll spit out the offending bite and rinse her mouth out, and at worst, she'll get sick almost immediately. She's gone to her primary care and is seeing a therapist, but we have yet to know why she reacts this way. Any meat, from mammal to poultry to fish, triggers this reaction in her if she consumes it. Even sufficiently meaty vegan products that imitate the taste and texture of meat can also set her off too. I opted to cut meat out of my diet as well, considering I do most of the cooking, and it's easier to make us both the same meals rather than worry about cross-contamination. I've grown to prefer some of the meatless alternatives of our normal fare, and seeing her unabashedly enjoy my food makes me feel warm and content. Now, one of the worst ingredients that triggers a reaction in her is bone broth. I used to drink and cook with it beforehand, but nowadays I use mushroom broth, and I don't notice much of a difference except when I'm shopping, as it tends to be in stock at my local grocery store even when the meat alternatives are not. Sometimes I even switch out instant ramen seasoning for a mushroom bouillon base with dried veggies if I'm feeling lazy and I want something quick. So anyways, we have a shared friend who we will call Brian, who invites us and a few others, including another friend who we will call Charlie, over to their place for the occasional dinner and a hangout. He's a much better cook than I am, and he invited us over for group chat recently, even offering to send us a few of his recipes that he's considering making, just to run it by us and make sure that he could accommodate. Well, my girlfriend and I looked over the recipes that Brian sent us, and a minestrone recipe caught our eye, especially because it's been soup weather, and I hadn't had proper minestrone in ages. We told him what we thought, and he admitted it's what he would have chosen too. He sent a time and date update to the group chat and all seemed well. The day rolls around and we arrived a little later than everyone else. We get settled in and we serve ourselves some soup before sitting at the table. My girlfriend only had a single spoonful before immediately making a beeline for the bathroom. As soon as the bathroom door slammed shut, Charlie shrunk in his seat and admitted to adding bone broth to the minestrone, all while Brian was greeting us as he felt it needed the flavor, and he didn't think that my girlfriend was really vegetarian. Well, this is where I might be the jerk in this story, because I laid into Charlie, calling him, among other things, a complete idiot for tampering with food that someone else made, and a piece of garbage for doing it knowing full and well it was supposed to be vegetarian, not to mention for also making my girlfriend sick. I told him I never wanted to see his face again, and then I left for home with my girlfriend as soon as she got out of the bathroom and rinsed out her mouth. Now, as a result, the group chat is in shambles. My girlfriend says that she appreciates me standing up for her, but she feels bad for causing a scene. So seriously, am I at fault for causing a scene or like doing something wrong? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset by this situation. Dude, the way Charlie acted is insane. So let me get this straight. Someone who's in this friend group who knows that the girlfriend has violent reactions to meat-based products decides, oh, don't worry about it, I'll just add some bone broth in there and it'll be fine. Anyway, she's just a fake vegetarian as it is, no big deal. It's like, dude, what are you doing? This is so much more than someone just not wanting to eat meat. This is literally a physical response. We're talking like throwing up and like completely being done for the day if they eat anything meat-based. So like, why would Charlie step up and do that? Like, why on earth would you be like, oh, you're a fake vegetarian and I'm gonna prove it? Like, did he think he was gonna try and prove something? Because this is crazy if that's the fact. And I can imagine the original poster and like how stressed out they are with like all the food they try to eat and all the food they're trying to avoid as well. So to have someone literally just completely betray your trust like that, like that's weird. Especially the part about putting that bone broth in something someone else made. Like if you wanted the flavor right, why not put it in your own bowl? Like why would you do that to the whole thing and not say anything? Like that's crazy, and in my opinion, there's just no good excuse for that. My toxic coworker basically said she's gonna punch me in the face one day, all because I was just trying to do my job. So I decided to quit on the spot, but now after thinking about it, I'm having second thoughts, and I'm wondering if I overreacted in this situation. Here's how it went down. Okay, to start things out, I want to apologize if this is long, but I would like to give as much context as possible. I started working as a dietary aid cook at an adult healthcare facility at the end of January. On the third day of training, an aide who got hired the same day as me but started training sooner was introduced to me. She seemed a little standoffish, but that's okay, we were both new, so I totally understood. My trainer and I finished our meal and had a little time before serving. The aide had already swept the kitchen, so I offered to mop, trying to be helpful. I hadn't realized that she was on the phone, so when I didn't get a clear yes or no, I just went ahead and I grabbed the mop. Now, I didn't get far before she came up to me and said, not to sound like a jerk or anything, but when I say I want to do something, I want to do it, because I have a certain way that I want it done. So I put the mop in the bucket and I said, okay, no problem. Here you go. I went outside to smoke a cigarette with my trainer and let her know I messed up by trying to help. Both of us were a little confused by it, but just kind of shrugged it off. A little later, she was taking apart the coffee pots, so I went to see how they do it. She gave me a sort of WTF look and ignored me, so I just walked away. She was still on her phone call, by the way, which is against company policy to be on your phone. At this point, I could tell we were probably not going to get along, which is totally fine. Not everyone's your cup of tea. Now, usually the aide goes out about an hour before serving to set up napkins, silverware, and cups for the residents, and about 5 minutes before serving goes out to fill the cups with the residents' drinks. For some reason, she decided to set up and pour drinks at the same time. This is a big no-no because we, the cooks, cannot serve anyone who doesn't have drinks, so we were having to wait on her. We have to push our meal cart to 3 different pods. The first is pod A, the second is pod C, and the third is pod B. We were on the first pod when a CNA from C pod came over asking about the tables being set up. I let her know the aide was a little behind, but would be there shortly. The aide then decides to yell out, "I'm coming and you can get rid of that attitude real quick." The CNA just turned around and went back to her pod as I went back to the steam table to finish passing plates. After dinner, the cooks break down the steam table, clean it and the pans, then have to wait for the aide to go pick up the dishes and bring them back. And this is supposed to happen in stages. The first being pod A. They bring dishes to the kitchen where the cook will wash them and put them away, while the aide goes to C pod for their dishes and so on. Well, she went and collected all 3 pods. I was prepared to wash the dishes, so I had the dishwasher trays set up in the order that I preferred. But I guess this pissed her off, I don't know. She then said that this got in the way of her trying to do her job. But I just ignored her and I started putting the dishes that she washed away. There were plates that still had food and oil stains on them from dinner, so I put them back to be rewashed. She then snapped at me and said, "What in the F is your problem? You've had an attitude all night, trying to tell me how to do my job." But I told her I don't have a problem. The plates are simply still dirty. She tried to say they weren't dirty, but they were just stained. But no, girl, there's still food on them. They're dirty. She then calls me the B word and then threatens to leave, which I tell her, okay, go ahead and leave. No one is forcing you to stay here. As soon as the interaction ended, I messaged the assistant manager and I let her know exactly what happened. The next day, my manager talked to me and said the aide had apologized and said that she would to me as well, but she never did. And her behavior stayed the same. She was and is on her phone, even in video calls while walking around the pods, which I'm pretty sure is illegal as residents were able to see her calls. She was having inappropriate conversations for work, yelling and not being able to get her work done because she was distracted. She would come in not wearing approved outfits, wouldn't wear a hairnet, always on the phone, wouldn't finish her duties, and then would leave not saying a word, and I would have to do everything by myself. So you know what? I just reported the incident. But it finally came to head last week when I was cooking with sugar and corn syrup at the stove, and she pushed a trash can into me. I am so glad I saw it coming and was able to push it out of the way because I can only imagine what would have happened had that boiling pot fallen and spilled all over me. Well, neither manager took it seriously. So I thought to myself, okay, fine. The next night she put boiling water into a bin and then put the plates in the bin. Again, I'm glad I saw her using boiling water because I could have been severely burned. And yet again, the managers just didn't care. So on Sunday, we were working together and I had just served C-Pod and left for B-Pod when a CNA came to ask about dessert. I said it was ice cream and I asked if there was some in the kitchenette freezer. He said no, so I took him to the walk-in freezer and grabbed him some ice cream. As I started to serve, the aide then came up to me and asked, "Did you give so-and-so ice cream?" And I said, yes, I did. He said there wasn't any. The aide then said, well, you shouldn't have done that. Those ice creams are for specific people. But here's the thing. No, they're actually not. I then said I gave him the right ice cream. The aide then said to me, well, I had it on my cart. So I responded by saying, okay, well, they didn't have it. And if you had done your job, I would not have had to. She started talking, so I interrupted her and I tell her to just go back to the kitchen and do your job because I'm not doing this. As she walked away, she said, you're gonna get punched in the face someday. And one of the CNAs there said, you're a better woman than me. And for some reason, the aide thought that she was talking to her, so she yelled out, and she knows exactly why. Now, when I heard this, I just breathed through it. I finished serving, I got my steam table to the kitchen, and immediately went to call the boss. Well, I got no answer twice. So my next bet was the assistant manager, and she answered immediately. I told her the situation and said that I'm leaving. I won't stay in an environment where I felt unsafe. And to that, she said that she was on the way. I went to the kitchen, cleaned the steam table and my area, clocked out, and I finally left. I met the manager as I was pulling out, and I gave her the list of people who witnessed what happened, and then I just went home. I then found out the aide decided to leave too, once she realized I was gone, leaving the manager to do everything. I also reached out to Human Resources to let her know what happened. She apologized to me and then asked for a meeting the next day. So I go into work, and of course, the same aide is there. And it was then that I let my assistant manager know that if she wasn't fired, then I was quitting. The aide did minor things to inconvenience me throughout the day. When it was time to wash dishes, she just dumped them on the dishwasher tray, all scattered and crazy. I just snapped a picture and sent it to my fiance, and I laughed about how effing childish she was. I went to the meeting with my manager in HR, and it took less than 3 minutes. I explained what happened, and she said to me, when I spoke to the aide about this, I told her that no matter how she is feeling, she can't act that way or say these things. I then interrupted her and I said, this conversation needs to go no further. I quit. Good luck with the mess. And after that, I walked out. I walked through the kitchen, I clocked out, and I left. My assistant manager messaged me immediately and said, what happened? You were in there for like 30 seconds. But I told her, look, I told you I was quitting if nothing happened. So seriously, did I overreact for quitting on the spot? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Dude, your coworker's so toxic. There's no way I would ever want to work with them. First of all, it's pretty obvious they definitely said, yeah, we're gonna punch you in the face. Like, you don't just say like, oh man, one day you're gonna get punched in the face without some kind of plan of actually punching that person in the face. I think that's kind of a given. But also, this coworker had an attitude from day one. Like, you weren't bothering her at all. You were just doing your job. And I love the one time she came in there and she's like, oh, I can do it. And by the way, get rid of that attitude. And it's like, dude, nobody has an attitude except for you. I don't know what's going on right now, but you might want to figure that out at home. Because that's some like classic projection where she's like, I don't have an attitude, you do. And it's like, dude, clearly you're pissed off at something and I can't help that. And it's also not my fault. So hey, best of luck with that in therapy or whatever's going on, but that doesn't involve me at all. So for me, my reaction is kind of twofold. For one, good for you for getting away from these people because human resources and your managers are completely useless. But also, walking out after a coworker literally said they're gonna punch you in the face, even if they said it in a vague way, which is still absolutely them saying they're gonna punch you, like that is absolutely necessary for your own safety. Like, I'm sorry, there's just no good excuse for letting that slide because human resources and your managers completely failed you. And if they were better at their jobs, they would have ensured that this lady would have been kicked out of there immediately. Like, in my opinion, you just can't let threats like that slide, even for a second, because this could end in disaster. Like, seriously, what were they thinking letting that slide? Especially with you having witnesses. Like, this should have been a done deal, man. So no, I don't think you overreacted. I think you did the right thing. And the fact that your managers and human resources let you down entirely, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. My entitled landlord refuses to allow me to move out early, despite the fact that his apartment that he rented to me is full of cockroaches. So I decided to get some revenge on this guy by suing him into oblivion, which will eventually lead him into financial ruin and ruining his business entirely. And I'm honestly feeling so satisfied about this, and I can't wait for it all to go down. Here's what happened. Okay, to begin with, I'm a lawyer. I know the laws in my city pretty well. So when I moved into a new apartment and learned that I had a cockroach infestation, I started planning. And you know what? I decided to move. I asked the landlord of my building to enter into a mutual release form so we could just go our ways amicably. I mentioned the cockroaches and my frequent maintenance requests, and I even offered to find them a new tenant for them. I mean, I figured it's the best for the both of us, right? Well, they waited for about a month to even respond, and during that time, I had already contacted multiple lawyers who found a legal loophole for me to break my lease clean and easy. Not only that, I pay the lawyers $700 to do it, they file the lawsuit, the landlord then has to pay my attorney fees and back the rent, and I get my $700 back and then some on top of it, which is really nice. So when the landlord finally got back to me on my mutual release proposal, which would have greatly benefited them, he said to me, "No, only if you pay this exorbitant several $1,000 break lease clause." And when he said this, I couldn't help but smile. You absolute idiots, you morons. If I ask for something nicely, just give it to me the first time, because I already have 6 evil backup plans. Anyways, I responded back and I said, I do not agree to the break lease clause. And the property manager wrote back with something condescending, saying something like, "I'll let the landlord know your disapproval." So unbeknownst to the landlord, I send the money to the attorney and now it's all going down. Because why would I pay thousands of dollars to break the lease when it's literally free to sue this guy? Like, what an idiot. So not only will they get a surprise lawsuit, they'll also lose out on months of rent, plus the back rent that they owe me, and they won't get rent from the new tenant that I could have and would have found them. I'll leave the place as gross as I found it, and I will be driving into the sunset while they scramble and realize they played themselves. Oh, on top of that, I also called the city building inspectors, and I helped them investigate in the meantime. So now the landlord will get a big fine and a formal violation by the city, which they have to disclose by law to future tenants. So the chances of them even finding a new tenant who would agree to live with cockroaches will be very, very low, unless they drastically reduce the rent, but either way, I win. You may have been able to mislead me about the cockroaches and the cleanliness of the place, but you won't be able to fool the next person. So I guess you should have done the mutual release form, huh? Hope you learned your lesson, because I am not the one to mess with. So that's my story of my petty little revenge against my slumlord. Stay safe and stay smart, and always play chess and not checkers. Dude, this original poster is my hero. Like, seriously. This guy swooped in like Batman and he's like, "Oh, you don't want to sign the mutual release proposal, huh? Welcome to the next 6 months of your life where I win a lawsuit, get all my money back, and then you've got to deal with it probably forever." Because I've been there with landlords before. Dude, let me tell you, some people suck at managing their properties. Like, seriously, I had one guy who literally did nothing about like a spider infestation where they just didn't do anything and those things were everywhere. And I don't know about you, but like, I don't like spiders. Like, just thinking about it makes my skin crawl. So I can only imagine what the original poster went through, because cockroaches are right up there, dude. So yeah, this guy's my hero, and hopefully when I grow up, I get to be just like this guy, because he is absolutely amazing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I nearly got scammed by 2 senior citizens who claimed that I slammed into their car, even though I definitely did not. They even went as far as demanding that I give them $20 for their troubles or else they would sue me, which resulted in one of the weirdest conversations I've probably ever had in my entire life. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I stopped by a gas station today before work, and after I pulled into a parking spot and got out of my car, these 2 old dudes, maybe in their 60s, got out of their car and claimed that I slammed into their car, then pointed at a giant scrape on my front bumper that I got in another accident. I noticed the dude had a huge dent that was obviously already there, and when I pointed out the damage on both cars was obviously already there, he claimed, "Well, yeah, but you made my dent worse." Now, at this point, I really thought he might be joking, because it just seems so ridiculous, because I was 99% sure I definitely did not hit his car. He then started guilting me, saying stuff like, "Well, if it was an
expensive car, you'd have a problem. I could try to be nice. I just want you to know that what you did was wrong.
And this was all before his friends started saying stuff like, you should at least slide him $20. It's the right thing to do. I felt like I was being scammed, so I just said, have a good day, and I went inside the store. After about a minute, the friend came in and started bothering me in line, saying, you should give him the $20. It's the least you can do. But I still ignored him and I walked up to the cashier. The cashier asked if I needed anything, and the dude said, maybe we need the footage because she just slammed into our car. I felt the whole car rattle. The cashier asked if it was true, and I said, no, he's claiming old damage just happened when it didn't. The dude then said to me, well, you should just give us $20 or we'll sue you. So I said, okay, go ahead and sue me. To which he said something under his breath about calling the cops and just walked away and waited by their car. And they didn't even bother me when I left. The part that makes me feel like I could be the jerk is the possibility that maybe I actually did scrape his car, and because I instantly felt like I was being messed with, so I didn't really take it seriously, which would have been a huge jerk move if I somehow did hit his car. But I think I would have noticed if I slammed into it so hard that he would have felt it rattle. The car was also some crap box 90s sedan that was covered in dents and rust and had no grille. If he wanted to genuinely look at the footage or go through my insurance, we could have talked it out. But the instant guilting and leaving without asking for the footage or my name or anything else makes me feel like they were definitely scammers. So truly, did I avoid getting scammed, or am I the jerk who hit and ran 2 senior citizens? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, those guys were 100% trying to scam you. Like, there's absolutely no question in my mind. Like, seriously, look at the way they were acting. They tried to be like, oh, give us $20. It's the right thing to do. But it's like, dude, you didn't do anything. Because your hunch in this situation is absolutely right. If you hit his car so hard that it would have rattled his car, then guess what? It would have rattled your car too. Because I bet these guys do this to literally anybody they can get in contact with, and that is super awful behavior. Am I the jerk for refusing to split the cost of a rental car after an extra person had joined into our plans even though we didn't intend on bringing them along? Because after I said no, I got forced out of the group, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. About a week ago, my brother's friend, let's call him Adam, mentioned that he was going on a business trip to a big city. He made it clear it wasn't a vacation and said he didn't want anyone tagging along. Well, on New Year's, I went to this city with some friends. My brother, who we will call Eli, couldn't come because of work, though I encouraged him to take a break. But later, I noticed he seemed interested in the city when Adam brought it up again, so I decided to plan another trip, and this time I would be including Eli. And well, he was excited. He took time off and asked if he could bring a couple friends as well. So I agreed and we started planning, and I was going to drive us in my car. We had dates and hotels set, and Adam was not a part of the plan at all. Well, out of nowhere, Eli's other friend, who we will call Marcus, told me that Adam was coming and needed a ride. My car didn't have space, and instead of splitting rides, they suggested that we rent a larger car and split the cost, which would be about $1,000 for 5 days just to make room for Adam, who wasn't even vacationing with us. Well, when they said this, I said no. I didn't think it was fair to take on that extra cost just to accommodate someone who wasn't part of our group, and I made that very clear. The next day, I found out there was a group chat I wasn't even in. Then Marcus messaged me, calling me immature, and Eli texted me seconds later, asking if I was okay with not going. So in the end, I didn't back out, but instead I got pushed out of the trip I planned. So now I'm pretty upset, especially since my own brother was part of it. I didn't make it about money or control. I just didn't want to foot the bill for someone else's business trip. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to split the rental and then getting excluded from the trip I organized? Because right now I'm seriously not sure what to do. Oh man, I can confidently say that if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would be very annoyed by this. You mean to tell me that my brother basically kicked me out of this group trip all because they wanted to include Adam, who literally was not even a part of these like original plans? Like, are you kidding me right now? That's so stupid. And splitting the cost for $1,000 car, like, dude, get an Uber or something. Like, what in the world is happening? Why is getting a larger car even a part of the equation for a trip that you planned? So this is all super silly in my opinion. I think Marcus, Eli, and Adam are all incredibly immature, and I don't think you really missed out on much by backing out and essentially being forced out of this stupid trip. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for wanting my brother-in-law to move out after he's literally overstayed his welcome for over a year? Because right now my husband is saying that his brother-in-law can stay forever if it means he finds a better job. And at this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my brother-in-law moved in with us 3 months after my husband and I got married. My husband offered for him to stay with us because he wanted him to have a place to stay while he went to college in our state. Now, I agreed, assuming that my brother-in-law would go back to his parents a couple of months after college was over, but it's now been a year since he's graduated and he is still living with us. He has a remote part-time job, job and is trying to look for a better full-time job but is having a hard time doing that. He's okay about cleaning up after himself, and if he's asked, he will help out around the house. He doesn't contribute financially at all, and he also now has a steady girlfriend who now stays over on the weekends. I kind of feel like the jerk, but I want my house to myself now and not feel like an apartment of some kind. My husband and I have never lived alone together except for maybe 3 months. I also want that for us. I want more privacy. I want to be able to spend time alone together before having kids. I talked to my husband about if he was going to talk to his brother about moving out, and he said that his brother can stay with us for however long it takes for him to get a good job, even if it means forever. My brother-in-law has a very niche degree, and in this economy, I doubt he will ever find a job that can sustain him the way my husband wants him to be. He is also looking for jobs specifically in that field. Anyways, this got us into a little argument, and I think it's the only child energy in me. So am I being the jerk for wanting my brother-in-law to move out with his parents and work remotely from there so that I could have my house and privacy back? I do feel like I am a bit of a jerk because my brother-in-law is a nice kid, but at this point, I'm very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, a year is way too long. Your husband is completely out of line assuming that this is okay. Like, even half a year for me is just way too long. I love my privacy and I love my own space, but also I'm compassionate towards family and I totally get it. Sometimes people fall on hard times and they've got to figure their stuff out. But over a year of staying there and just completely overstaying your welcome is not my version of compassion. That's wearing out your welcome very quickly in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting him to move out, and I think your husband definitely needs to adjust his attitude towards that, because the fact that he's letting that happen, in my opinion, is just not okay. My idiotic roommate decided to snort the candy I hid in my drawer in my room, as she thought it was something illegal that she could use to have some kind of trip, if you know what I mean. And I'm honestly still blown away that I had to explain any of this to the paramedics that showed up after she freaked out from getting a nosebleed. Here's how it went down. Okay, let me start by saying that I'm not doing any substances, nor have I ever done so. This story happened when I was back in university, and it still gives me chuckles to this day. Now, during university, I had the chance to do a few months at another university. It was far enough away that commuting wasn't an option, so the person in charge of the program put me in touch with a student who was transferring the other way, and we basically agreed to switch living situations. We cleared it with their prospective roommates, and everyone was fine with it. Well, when I arrived, I pretty quickly found out that I didn't like one of the people living there. Let's call this person Karen for the sake of the story. Now, the feeling was mutual, so I basically kept myself busy since it was only a few months. She was the type who got into everyone's business, especially if they didn't want her to. Now, here's a fun fact about me that will be important later on. I love licorice, and you know what? The stronger the better. It's a very specific taste. Some years before all this happened, I figured out how to get my fix without eating a ton of candy, and I would do that by buying ammonium chloride powder, which is also known as salmiak. This, by the way, is also used to make bread crispy, so you can find it in specialized baking stores and online. It is a strong shot, however, it is mildly acidic. I usually just eat what sticks to the tip of my finger, and that's the scale to keep in mind. Now, this is a fine, odorless white powder, and I kept my rations in small 10-gram plastic bags. And if you think you've guessed where this is going, you are probably right. I know Karen saw me eat some once in the beginning of my stay because she asked about it, and I told her it was candy and that she wouldn't like it. Fast forward, and there are about 2 weeks left, and I come back to the place and I notice an ambulance outside. Sure enough, the door to the apartment is open, and 2 paramedics are trying to help Karen stop a nosebleed of horrifying proportions. As soon as she saw me, she started screaming that it was my fault. Paramedics asked me if I know anything about what's going on because Karen claimed that it came out of the blue. So I asked her specifically if she went into my room, found and took my bag of candy, and then tried to sniff it. And you know what? She hesitantly admitted it. I told her, look, it's not that kind of substance, you idiot. It's salmiak. I tell her this, and then I tell the paramedics specifically the chemical name. In the end, she had to go to the emergency room because they weren't sure she hadn't burned a hole in her nasal wall with that stunt. Now, she hadn't, but according to my exchange buddy, she couldn't smell anything for almost 6 months afterwards. And even to this day, she still blames me for all of it going wrong. Oh my gosh, your roommate's an idiot. Seriously, Karen's a moron. She saw a mysterious white powder and said, ooh, I can get this for free. Let's do this. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You have to be a special kind of stupid to do something like that. And then the fact that she tried to be like, this is your fault. It's like, oh yeah, you got me. I'm the reason you sniffed the mysterious white powder you found in my room. Like, that's just hilariously dumb, and it's so astonishing to me that she seriously tried to blame this on you. My coworker is incredibly rude and a massive prima donna to everybody around them. So I decided to put them in their place by humiliating them in front of the entire office. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I'm not very proud of this one, but my god did it work. I used to run a very large large team at a very well-known entity publishing articles. I managed the writers, the fact-checkers, and the editors, and everyone generally worked really well together. However, there was one writer who was unbearably a prima donna. To be fair, this writer generally did decent work, but could be a sloppy writer and was also a truly horrible person to everyone, berating and trying to belittle anyone that dared question the writer's work. And even the best writer in the world benefits from a good editor, someone who's going to read what you actually write. It's really hard to check your own writing because you read it as you meant to write it. Now, I spoke to the writer directly numerous times about the appalling behavior. After about the fourth time, I made it clear that team players got priority and bullies got sent to the back of the line and reported to human resources. About 3 days later, the writer submits an article for checking. The initial editor goes back to clarify some things and then gets stomped on hard. So I go to the editor and I say, I'll take this one. And then I put it on my desk at the back of the pile. 30 minutes later, I see the writer yelling at the initial editor, but they respond by saying, sorry, but the original poster's handling it. The writer takes one step over to my desk, stops, and then goes right back to their desk. I finish the pile of work except the writer's piece, timing it just to coincide with a senior management meeting. 2 hours have now gone by before I start on the piece. I send it back to the writer asking for clarification, and then I start work on another piece in the interim, and this writer has to resubmit everything. I finally start on it again, and then send it back again asking for clarification in the next sentence. And then after I start working on another piece, the writer resubmits a second time. And you know what? Right after that, I send it back again, asking for more clarification on the next sentence. And of course, I'm sending a message to the writer's entire team each time, and each time the team gets to see the writer try to explain what they were trying to say. This lasted most of the afternoon as I went over that piece with a fine-tooth comb, requesting clarification for literally every word in the story, showing in painstaking detail why what they had written didn't work. Well, the writer eventually got the hint, and while the writer was never exactly a sunbeam to work with, we never had to deal with the childish blow-ups ever again. Okay, I love this story because sometimes this is literally what it takes. Sometimes it literally takes a manager or someone higher than them that they can't chew out to show them that their bad attitude is not acceptable. And the way the original poster did this, in my opinion, is so satisfying because this particular kind of coworker is a nightmare to deal with, and I feel so sorry for anyone who got on their bad side. Today, I did something a bit crazy by going above and beyond for nearly a year to prove that this one guy who was flirting with me is just a cheating scum. Here's how I did it. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I know what I did was crazy, but I had an abundance of free time then and I wanted justice. For some backstory, I was going through a very hard breakup. I was with my ex from before online dating and social media blew up. I mean, I was in uncharted waters. Prince Charming came in from my very large workplace where there were about 5,000 workers, and he wanted to be there for me and he was hot. I fell for his love bombing, and before the first real date with the new guy, he eventually disappeared. I mean, he even blocked me on Facebook. We didn't get into a fight or anything like that, so it was really odd. I used a friend's Facebook to see his account, and his girlfriend tagged him in a post. He blocked me so I wouldn't see it. And you know what? I ended up talking to the girlfriend. Well, he was not nice to me for outing him, and that was it. Well, half a year passes, and guess what? He wants me again. He then starts messaging me again, trying to act like a brand new guy. On his social media, he appears single and said that they broke up, but I know for a fact he lied. She saw that we followed each other and then confronted me, and I was completely honest with her. I let her know that nothing happened, but he was trying. And you know what? He lost his mind on me and said lots of very unkind things to me. Fast forward to another half a year later, and I hear they are still dating and he is still cheating. And trust me, work gossip doesn't disappoint at such a large workplace. I created a fake Instagram, I start building up with followers of hers and his, and I'm posting pictures with captions that lead right back to him. I mean, I've been building this Instagram account for months. When the time was right and the girlfriend posted a picture in his bedroom, I commented from the fake account that the picture is in my boyfriend's bedroom. She then messaged me to send her screenshots that I photoshopped between us. And you know what? I'd like to think that I saved this woman. And even to this day, he still tries messaging me every once in a while, even though he doesn't know that I'm the reason he finally got taken down. Okay, I like this for so many reasons, but most of all, the original poster refused to give up until they finally got the revenge that this guy absolutely deserved, and I love that so much. Like seriously, this guy is a cheating scumbag. He deserved to get exposed. So I love the way you did it, and honestly, I love the vigilance, even with the fake Instagram account. Like that, in my opinion, is absolutely brilliant. My coworker walked to my cubicle and interrupted me while I was on a work call, saying that I was being too loud. And right now, I'm kind of feeling humiliated, and I feel like they could have talked to me after my call to let me know that I was being too loud. And at this point, I'm wondering if I might be the jerk. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I work a hybrid position. I'm in the office twice a week and 3 days a week I'm at home. Admittedly, I can be loud while I'm on a Teams meeting without really knowing it. However, this is something I'm being more mindful of and trying to practice. I was on a work call yesterday that lasted about 8 minutes, and about a few minutes in, a coworker that sits on the opposite side of my cubicle walked around and began tapping on the wall of my cubicle and was asking me if I was on a call. I had my headset on, as I only wear my headset when I'm on a call, and Teams was open with my camera on. Now, I have never seen or even spoken to this coworker. I ended up giving her a weird look because I was shocked that someone was interrupting me when I was pretty obviously on a call. I nodded and she said, "You're being too loud, I'm sorry," and then walked away. And I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel pretty humiliated. I haven't had anyone at my job tell me that I'm too loud when I'm talking on a Teams or phone call. I can absolutely understand her frustration. I understand it's distracting if others are speaking loudly. I would have better understood if she had walked over to my cubicle after I got off the call and had told me that I was being too loud and to please keep it down. I felt like it was inappropriate to approach me and say this to me during my call, and that it should have been done afterwards. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because at this point, I don't know how to read the situation. Okay, in my opinion, I definitely think the original poster is the jerk here. They self-admitted that yes, they know they're loud, and chances are the coworker who's never spoken to you before only came over there to say you're being loud because, guess what? You were being too loud. So no, they're not the jerk for saying something, but if anything, you're being the jerk for not doing something to mitigate the problem. My entitled parents demand that I pay $15,000 to my brother so that his postgraduate education can be paid for. But after I said I couldn't do that, they then came back at me and said that any money they were saving up for my future wedding was now going to my brother and his schooling. And right now, I feel like I'm being punished for not giving in to my parents' demands, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I've been financially independent since I graduated college. I worked practically full-time while studying, recently paid off my student loans on my own, and just started saving to buy a home. I didn't apply to grad school because I couldn't afford it, and our parents made it pretty clear growing up that we needed to stand on our own after high school. My brother's a 22-year-old male, and he is honestly a genius. He worked really hard in school, got a full academic ride to a great state school, and graduated with honors. And I'm so proud of him. The problem now is that he recently got into an extremely prestigious grad school that would open a lot of doors for him. He was hoping for scholarships or a paid internship to cover most of it, but it's not enough. And now he's facing tuition and housing costs in one of the most expensive cities in the country. Well, my parents asked if I could help out and suggested I contribute around $15,000 to get him through the first year. They said they would match it and then he would take out loans for the rest. But you know what? I said no. I've been working for over a decade on my own goals, and I'm just now starting to save for a house. I don't feel comfortable putting that on hold, especially when I had to turn down opportunities because there was no help available to me. During the conversation, my mom got frustrated and said that they would be using my other fund to help him instead. I asked what she meant, and she said they had set aside about $25,000 for me back when I was in college, and apparently this was meant to be used for a future wedding. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea this fund existed. I asked why I wasn't told about it when I was considering grad school, or even now while I'm saving for a home. She said it was always intended for a wedding, not for school or property, and since I haven't needed it, as I'm not engaged or in a relationship, they decided to give it to my brother because he has more immediate need. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed off. I never got a chance to make a case for how I could have used that money, and now it's just being handed over to somebody else. I told them I felt hurt and I felt left out, but my mom said I was being unfair and that the money was never promised, and if I didn't want it for a wedding, then it made sense to use it for something meaningful. My brother told me he didn't know about the wedding fund either, and he understands why I would be upset, but said that he didn't ask for it. He just wants to go to school, and he thought that we were all trying to support each other. I know my brother worked hard and isn't trying to take anything from me, but I can't help but feel like my parents are punishing me for being practical, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't think there ever was a fund. I think your parents are 100% lying to you. This is all just a wild guess, by the way. I have no evidence to back this up. But from the sounds of it, it seems like they only brought up this mysterious $25,000 as a way of guilt-tripping you. They want you to feel bad because they don't want to pay for your brother's schooling. Like, that's all this reads to me, because honestly, why would they bring that up in the first place? It really seems like such a low blow as just a means to I don't know, guilt trip you and be like, oh, okay, I guess if you're not gonna do that, we'll have to use our other fund to pay for it. You know, the one that was meant for your wedding. Oops, I guess that's not gonna go anywhere. It's like, dude, you're so full of crap, it's not even funny. I don't believe that for a second. Like, all of that comes off as incredibly petty and just their way of like manipulating the situation, because from the sounds of it, they didn't help you with a single thing when it comes to school. You worked your butt off, you can fend for yourself, and you literally have done everything you can to make things work. So for your mom to come back at you and be like, oh well, I guess you won't have any money for your wedding, like, that's really dumb. I don't understand that, and I think she's just saying that to try and manipulate you. Because at the end of the day, your brother can absolutely take out student loans, and that is definitely not your problem in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled boomer gets incredibly angry at me for eating my lunch in my car, as she literally makes a scene over the dumbest reason I've ever heard in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, somebody please tell me I'm not crazy. I went to the library this morning, and across the street is a grocery store. I did a little shopping, and then I got a salad from the bar to eat for lunch. It had rained all morning, so I decided to eat in my car since the outside tables were all wet, and there were no other seating options. So I'm listening to the classical music station, quietly playing, eating my salad in my car, which is parked on a side street next to the library, at a parking meter that I paid for that has about an hour left on it. Now, it's important to note that this is an upscale area of the city, and the library is about a half block down from where the residential area starts. I believe I was eating the salad in a normal way, with a fork and everything, and I was looking at my phone. I drive a newer model Jeep Compass, very boring car. No odd bumper stickers or anything like that. The engine was off, and there were lots of empty spaces on the street. So with all that in mind, tell me why not one, not two, but three boomers walked by, stopped to stare at me in my car for like minutes at a time before finally shuffling off. The third one then actually tapped on my window, and when I rolled it down a little exacerbated, I asked if I could help her. She looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" I said to her, "Well, I'm eating my lunch." She then looked at me and said, "They have tables right over there, you know." I looked at her confused and I said, "Yeah, but they're wet." She then gestured wildly and vaguely and said, "I live right up there." Now at this point, I stopped responding and I rolled up the window in her face, because it's like, okay, yeah, cool story, lady. I'm gonna go ahead and finish my salad. She then let out a huff and stomped off, and I'm honestly still very confused about this entire interaction. Good lord, this is like the prime example of, listen, just mind your own business and do your own thing. And guess what? Eating lunch in your car is not that big of a deal. I used to do that all the time in my old job and it was completely fine. So I can't imagine someone walking up and being like, there's tables right over there, you know. Like, so what? I want to sit in my car where it has air conditioning, lady. Get away from me. Because even if those tables were dried off and like completely usable, I still would probably not want to eat outside. Am I the jerk for arguing with a couple that was literally trying to cut the line to get in front of me, all because they had a kid? Because right now I still feel pretty dumb by letting them through, and at this point I'm not sure if I handled this correctly. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female and I just had my 6:45 in the morning flight canceled. When we got the news, I sprinted across the airport to customer service so I could have the best chance of being booked on the next soonest flight. Transavia employees made a specific line for the customers on our flight, and I then waited until 9:30 in the morning for a representative to even show up. Right as I'm next in line, a couple and their son, I'm guessing maybe around 5 years old, ask if they can go in front of me because they have a kid. Now, I got really frustrated because I've been waiting for roughly 3 hours at this point. Flights were booking up by the minute because the airport is smaller and the routes are limited. So in my mind, letting them cut was not only annoying, but also risking my ability to get home on the same day. Their kid was sleeping in his stroller, so it wasn't like they needed to get tickets handled so that they could calm him down or anything. I've babysat and been a nanny for plenty of kids, so I can empathize with managing tough situations with them around. I think if it was something like, oh, we have to go change his diaper, do you mind if we go ahead so we can clean him faster? I would have been more understanding. However, in this scenario, the couple was simply using his existence as justification. While I go back and forth on the idea of having kids of my own someday, I have always felt that parents make the choice to have kids, and with that, they should willingly take on any challenges that come with it. I know that lots of children behavior like crying on a plane is out of their control, but I guess in this situation, it felt like they were purposefully inconveniencing others, all due to their lifestyle choices. After spending maybe 10 to 15 seconds arguing over this matter, the mother then turns to the other traveler behind me and starts talking in French about my attitude. And for reference, we were previously speaking in English, which made me even more upset because I'm fluent in French, and I felt she was just being rude at that point. So I responded in French that I understood everything she said. Finally, she just walked ahead of me, and I didn't feel like making a scene at that point. The flight the airline rebooked me on ended up being 5 days later, which is just crazy. So I had to pay an additional $200 to get a flight home today, or pay for 4 nights of a hotel since the airline would only pay for 1. At the end of the day, I know it's just a couple of minutes wasted to let them in front of me, so maybe I am the jerk here. At the same time, I don't feel like the couple was entirely justified for cutting the line of 50 people in front of them. So seriously, am I at fault here? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off. Oh man, no, you're not the jerk at all, but there's no way I would have ever let them walk in front of me. I don't care how long that argument's gonna take. I don't care what their attitude is. If I've been waiting in line for 3 hours, they're not just disrespecting me, but they're disrespecting the 50 plus people behind me who literally are waiting as well. And you hit the nail on the head. Why should they get priority just for having a kid? Like, that's not my fault. That's your fault. You're the one with the kid, not me. Why should I have to go out of my way just to make your life better? Like, that literally does not make any sense to me. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, but I know if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would have said something the second they walked in front of me, because I really think that kind of behavior is absolutely undefendable. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for stealing my friend's crush, even though he was cheating on his actual girlfriend at the time? Because right now, my entire friend group has turned against me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. I'm a 21-year-old male, and I've been going to the same coffee place for the past 2 years with my friend, who's also 21, and for the sake of the story, I'll call him Michael. About a year ago, a new barista started working there. She was cute, but very quiet and seemed kind of unfriendly, so neither of us really approached her at first, but Michael immediately said that he had a crush on her. After about 7 months, she and Michael finally talked a bit, exchanged IDs, and flirted. A week later, she found out Michael had lied to her about something, and even to this day, I'm still not exactly sure what that was, and told him she wasn't interested in a relationship. Well, Michael got really upset and started trying to make her jealous, bring other girls to the cafe, trash-talking her to others, saying that she had a mustache or she was too short, but all the while privately admitting that he still liked her. He asked her out again a couple of times, but got rejected each time. Eventually, our mutual friend, who we will call Josh, started working at the same cafe and became friends with her. She later left that job to work at a different cafe, and Josh kept in touch with her. He started inviting us to hang out with her, and then the 3 of us, me, Josh, and the girl, became very close. Michael was around in the first couple of months, but after he confessed again that he still liked her, she cut him off and asked us not to bring him around if she was there. Over time, I started visiting her at her new job after work. At first, we didn't talk much, but gradually we became friends, and eventually I started developing feelings for her. She had strong boundaries, so I never made a move or acted flirty because I didn't want her to back away. Eventually, Josh told me she mentioned liking me, and that gave me the courage to start spending more time with her one-on-one. We got closer, and then at Josh's girlfriend's birthday party, she got a bit drunk, rested her head on my shoulder, and I gently held her hand. That night when I dropped her off, Josh called me and said that I was a piece of garbage for doing that to Michael, and that I should have shoved her hand away. I told him that I genuinely liked her and that I felt it was right between us. The next day, she and I talked about everything, and officially, we became a couple. Well, now all my friends say that I broke the bro code and that I should break up with her. But here's the thing. Michael has been in a relationship with a girl who we will call Tanya for like 2 years, including the entire time he was pursuing this other girl. Not only that, but he was also cheating on Tanya with another classmate during that time. Now he's saying that this girl was different and that he would have broken up with both girls if she gave him a chance. And now apparently I'm the bad guy and all my friends are siding with him. So am I the jerk for dating a friend my friend used to like, even though he was never in an exclusive thing with her and was already in 2 other relationships at the time? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Dude, I can confidently say that your friends all completely suck. Seriously, look at these people. They've sided with a guy who's literally in 2 other relationships, who's a massive cheater and honestly doesn't have his ducks in a row, over the guy who's trying to be honest and just date someone that he likes. You didn't steal anything from Michael. Michael's just a weirdo who doesn't know what he wants, who is cheating on his girlfriend and would happily cheat on his girlfriend again with this barista if given the chance. Like, dude, what the heck is going on right now? How can anybody in their right mind be like, oh yeah, you're in the wrong. Michael should be allowed to cheat on whoever he wants. No, Michael needs better friends to call him out on his garbage. Like, what's going on right now? So no, you're definitely not the jerk. You need better friends, like across the board. These people are not good people in my opinion, and you could do way better than this. My parents think that my boyfriend is a loser, despite the fact that he makes good money and loves me a lot. And at this point, I seriously don't know how to break through to them, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I have an amazing relationship with a guy I met on a dating app 4 years ago. Our relationship has been happy, exciting, yet also beautiful and challenging, as we've gone through a lot with each other. He has supported me so much, and we get along really well. However, the only downside has been my parents. They disapprove of my boyfriend boyfriend because he isn't as well educated as me and thinks he doesn't make enough money. He has a bachelor's degree and I'm graduating med school next year. He works for a financial company making about $100,000 a year. They think he never makes enough money and his job sucks and it's not prestigious enough. They think that he's not good enough and that I can do better. Now they have met him and they think it's a joke, that our relationship will fade and I'll get over this phase of my life. As of now, I don't share anything about me and my boyfriend with them because it's just not worth the pain. For some background, I'm in an upper middle class, currently in med school, and my parents are doctors. I feel very privileged because they're helping me financially get through school. Once I graduate though, I plan to be financially independent. They want me to be with someone better, someone who is a doctor or someone of that educational status, prestige, and earning potential. I feel so ambivalent because I love my parents and I love my boyfriend, and I don't want to break up with my boyfriend. He is not a loser. He is a kind, hardworking man who loves me. I hate that I'm disappointing my parents. Why can't they respect someone I care so deeply about? What should I do? Oh man, your parents have a weird perception of what is and is not a good relationship. This guy's making 6 figures a year and they're like, it's not good enough. He's not doing enough for our child. It's like, dude, what do you want? This guy's doing just fine. He cares about the original poster. He sounds like a good boyfriend as far as I can tell. So for them to be like, oh, you need better than this. This is not nearly good enough for us. We're rich. We're doctors. Like, honestly, this sounds really like stuck up in my opinion. So just so you have like some kind of peace of mind, your boyfriend sounds like a great person and I'm so sorry your parents don't see that because their opinion of him is absolutely incorrect. Am I the jerk for planning to move out of my best friend's house after she decided to move her partner in without consulting me first? Because right now she's claiming I'm punishing her for her decisions, and at this point I'm honestly so confused. Here's what's going on. I'm 25 years old and I've lived with my best friend since 2019. We've also been best friends since 2014. Now I've always been at home more because I work from home and my best friend is in the military and travels often. We have a dog whose care mostly fell to me because of the fact that she would be gone often, sometimes just for a weekend and sometimes for weeks. Most recently, she just got a promotion that would allow her to be at home for more regular hours, typically from 9 to 5. Now, backstory aside, a couple of weeks ago, she turned to me and asked how I felt about her moving her partner of less than 2 months in with us. She said it would really help us with the bills, and the partner has a dog that could play with mine. Now, not wanting to seem unsupportive right away, I told her I would think on it, completely expecting this to be revisited and thoroughly discussed between us. Well, this past weekend, her partner informed me that she would be back and forth between our house and her own because she is taking leave from her job and needs my best friend's car to do things throughout the day. And this was obviously very jarring to me, especially as someone who is very careful and particular about my personal space. And this was the first thing I'd heard since my best friend initially asked about it. Now, here's the thing. My friend is in love and she is happy and ready to move to the next level with this girl. I don't want to make her feel wrong for doing something just for her, but I pay bills there too. And the complete disregard of me in the decision to move the partner in kinda made me view my relationship with my best friend completely differently. We have been friends since middle school, and we have been through it all together. But whenever she gets into a relationship, she suddenly starts being extremely inconsiderate. We have talked about this many times, and she always says that she'll do better. And you know what? This was my final straw. I decided the best thing I could do was formulate a plan to move into a space of my own and allow those two to live out their fantasies together. However, this has been met with some resistance, and my best friend feels that I'm punishing her for her decision to essentially move her partner in without actually talking to me about it. So truly, am I actually in the wrong here? I thought this was genuinely the most peaceful decision that could be made, because right now I'm honestly questioning everything. Okay, the way your best friend basically like accelerated all of this super fast is not okay in my opinion. She went from like literally saying, okay, are you okay with my partner moving in, to then saying, hey, it's happening, and oh, oops, you're making me feel guilty about it. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you're the one doing this. I'm just saying that I'll move out to give you guys space. So for her to essentially say, no, stop it, you're making me feel guilty, you're punishing me for my decisions. It's like, dude, I can't control how you feel. I don't know what you want from me. I'm literally trying to do what's best for me and for you and your partner. Like, what do you want from me? Because seriously, this is not okay. Like, she just accelerated this so fast, it didn't even give you a chance to like decide on anything. And that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. Am I overreacting for thinking that a guy on my bus was acting creepy, as he was just a little too close to me while I was riding home? Here's how it went down. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 16-year-old girl, and the guy was maybe like 45 or 50 years old. I got to go home from school 2 hours early, which means I took a bus at a time I don't usually do. I don't know how important this is for understanding, but I sat facing the back of the bus, and the seat closest to me faced the other side of the aisle. When I got on, there was no one in that seat. But after a few stops, a man got on and sat down in that seat I just mentioned. So far, everything is okay. For more context, above me is a small open window, which extends about a quarter over the man's seat. He decided to close it at some point, which would be fine if he didn't lean halfway over my seat, and thus me to do it. I was weirded out and put away my phone to be more aware of my surroundings after that, especially because after the window thing, I felt like he was staring at me. At first, I thought he might have said something, which I wouldn't have heard due to wearing headphones, because the way he was looking at me felt somewhat expectant, as if he was waiting for a reaction. He didn't repeat his potential comment though, so I brushed it off as just my imagination. Over the next 10 minutes or so, he kept shooting me glances and sometimes downright watching me until I looked up at him directly, and even that didn't make him stop a few times. Now we're at the point where the next stop is mine. It's about 7 minutes until we're there, and I decide to press the stop button already so I don't forget. The guy's hands were somewhere I didn't pay attention to because they were definitely not on the pole where the button was. When I reached out toward the pole though, he did the same. There was zero reason for him to need to steady himself, so I was somehow creeped out by this, but then kind of just brushed it off as bad timing. He continued to stare at me a few times until I finally stood up. And I will be honest, I was making plans for what I would do if he were to follow me. I mean, that is how bad the vibe was that I was getting from this guy. He thankfully didn't get off at my stop though, which makes the reaching for the pole even weirder and less likely to be poor timing in my opinion. So I get off the bus totally relieved when the door closes and he is still in his seat. I walk down the length of the bus and I decide to shoot one last glance at the guy when I'm around the height where our seats were, kind of just to see whether or not he's still there, I guess. And you know what? I honestly wish I didn't, because that man was literally half pressed against the glass staring at me. I'm talking wide-eyed, glaring with a hand against the window. Needless to say, I was pretty freaked out after that, and I told my parents all about it later. In retrospect, I am totally unsure whether I'm just being dramatic and making an elephant out of a mouse, but even just thinking about it now gives me goosebumps. So truly, did I overreact in this situation? Was this truly not that big of a deal? What should I do? Okay, holy crap, no, this guy is absolutely a weirdo. He knew exactly what he was doing the entire time. There's no ambiguity here. This guy's a weirdo, grade A freak, and there's no reason for you to ever brush that kind of stuff off. So hopefully the next time you're able to really pay attention to your surroundings, while also giving out verbal declarations of, hey, get away from me. Especially with him staring at you and getting close to you, like that is super weird. There's no excuse for that. Because that behavior is very creepy, and you should not have to deal with that in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.